I should have known something was wrong when Mom texted family meeting with 3 exclamation points. She never uses exclamation points. Not for birthdays, not for Christmas, not even for Ava's engagement announcements. All 3 of them. My name is Esme, and this is the story of how my family stole my future, and how I took it back with interest. I'd just finished my last tutoring session of the day, helping a freshman understand derivatives. Math always made sense to me, clean, logical, predictable. Unlike family dynamics, the kitchen was unusually quiet when I walked in, despite everyone being there. Mum sat straight-backed at the head of the table, Dad slouched beside her, and Ava, my perfect older sister, practically vibrated with barely contained excitement. "Sit down, dear," Mum said, using her society dinner voice. "We need to discuss something important." I dropped my backpack and slid into a chair, already feeling my stomach knot. The last time we had a family meeting, they announced Ava's 2nd divorce. "As you know," Mom continued, "Ava and Yusuf are planning their wedding for this summer. It's going to be spectacular." She smiled at Ava, who preened, "A proper yacht ceremony followed by a reception at the Marina Club." "Okay," I said, wondering why this required a meeting. I'd already heard about the yacht thing at least 50 times. "Well," Dad cleared his throat, still not meeting my eyes. "The thing is, Princess, these kinds of events, they're not cheap." "The yacht alone is 40,000, Ava chimed in, examining her manicure. "But Yusuf's family expects nothing less." The number hit me like a punch to the gut. 40,000. Exactly the amount in my college fund. "No," I whispered. But I already knew. "Now, Esme." Mom's voice took on that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. "We've thought this through carefully. You're smart, you'll figure something out. Community college is always an option. But Ava, she has real potential here. This marriage could set her up for life. Like the last 2 did." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Ava's eyes narrowed. "At least I have prospects. What's your plan? Teach math to losers forever?" "That's enough," Dad said weakly, but nobody listened. "We're not asking your permission," Mom said firmly. "The decision is made. The money has already been transferred." My entire body went cold. You already did it? Without even telling me?" "Oh," Ava brightened suddenly. "But if you can scrape together enough for the bridesmaid dress, it's only 2,000. You can still be part of the wedding party. I mean, if you want to." I looked at each of their faces. Mom's stern certainty, Dad's guilty avoidance, Ava's smug smile. These people were supposed to be my family. They were supposed to believe in me. "When?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "When did you decide this?" "Last week," Mom replied. "After Yusuf's parents insisted on the yacht venue, we had to act quickly to secure the date." I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. "I've been working since I was 15 to add to that fund. 3 years of weekends and summers. My money is in there too." "Don't be dramatic," Ava rolled her eyes. "It's not like you had real plans for it anyway." "But I did. I had acceptance letters from 3 universities sitting in my email. I had a dream of studying applied mathematics, of breaking free from this suffocating house, of proving I was more than their backup child." "Esme," Mum's voice hardened, "sit down. We're not finished." "Yes," I said quietly, "we are." I walked out of the kitchen, up the stairs, into my room. I heard them calling after me, but I didn't stop. With trembling fingers, I opened my laptop and navigated to my university application portal. One by one, I declined each acceptance. They disappeared from the screen like dying stars. Then I opened a new tab and typed "Most Prestigious Academic Scholarships USA." The results loaded. A list of opportunities I'd never considered before. I didn't need their money. I didn't need their approval. What I needed was to show them exactly what they'd thrown away. My phone buzzed. A text from Philip. Hey, how'd the family meeting go? I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, They took everything, but they're about to learn that was their biggest mistake. Downstairs I could hear Ava laughing about wedding flowers. Mom was probably already calling her friends to brag about the yacht. Dad would be in his study, pretending nothing had happened. Fine, let them have their perfect wedding fantasy. I had work to do. I opened the first scholarship application and began to type. They want me to write her vows, I told Philip, staring into my now cold coffee. Can you believe that? She said, and I quote, You're good with words and I'm too busy picking centerpieces. We were sitting in our usual corner of the campus coffee shop where I'd picked up extra barista shifts. Between that, tutoring, and my freelance math problem-solving gig, I was barely keeping my head above water. But every spare moment went into scholarship applications. Philip leaned back in his chair, his expression darkening. Tell her to write her own damn vows. You're not her personal Hallmark card. I did. I smiled grimly. She went crying to Mom about how unsupportive I'm being. Now I'm selfish and jealous of her special day. God, your sister's a piece of work. He paused, watching me carefully. How many applications have you submitted so far? 17. The Hughes Bradley is the big one. Full ride plus living expenses. But it's basically impossible to get. Nothing's impossible for spite-motivated Esme, he grinned. The bell above the door chimed and my stomach dropped as Ava swept in with her best friend Vanessa in tow. Both wore designer workout gear despite clearly not having exercised. Esme, Ava called out too loudly. There you are. Mum's been trying to reach you about the cake tasting. I'm working, I said flatly, gesturing to my apron. You're sitting and chatting, she countered, sliding uninvited into our booth. Vanessa followed, forcing Philip to scoot over. Anyway, we need you there. Someone has to take notes, and you're so detail-oriented. Translation, you need a servant, Philip muttered. Ava's perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. Excuse me? Nothing, I cut in quickly. Ava, I can't. I have 3 scholarship essays due this week. Still on about college, she sighed dramatically. Mom said you should take a gap year anyway. Help with the wedding, figure out what you really want. I know what I want. Do you? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. Because from where I'm sitting, you're just angry and trying to prove something. It's not attractive, Esme. Neither is being on your 3rd marriage before 30, Philip shot back. Vanessa choked on her drink. Ava's face flushed red. You know what? I stood up, untying my apron. My shift's over. I have an essay to write about overcoming adversity. Thanks for giving me such rich material to work with. Wait, Vanessa called as I headed for the door. Before you go, did you hear back from Yusuf about postponing the rehearsal dinner? He's been weird about scheduling lately. Ava's head snapped around. What do you mean, weird? Oh, just... Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. Cooper mentioned running into him at the golf club, said he seemed stressed about something. Cooper? I paused. Your ex, Cooper? It's not. We just talk sometimes, Ava said quickly, too quickly, for closure. I caught the flash of guilt in her eyes, the way her hand instinctively went to her phone. Interesting. Right, I said slowly. Well, good luck with the cake tasting. I'm sure whatever you pick will be perfect. Outside, Philip caught up with me. Did you see that when Vanessa mentioned Cooper? Yeah. I pulled out my phone, opening my scholarship essay draft. Hey, want to help me polish this? It's about the impact of betrayal on personal growth. He grinned. You're evil. I love it. That night, I sat cross-legged on my bed, surrounded by application materials. Mum's voice drifted up from downstairs, gushing to someone about yacht decorations. My phone buzzed with a text from Ava. Fine, I'll write my own stupid vows, but you're still doing the wedding toast. I ignored it, focusing instead on the essay before me. The prompt asked about a defining moment that shaped our character. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I began. Trust is a currency we're taught to invest in family. But what happens when those meant to protect your dreams become the ones who destroy them? This is a story about betrayal, resilience, and the cost of believing in yourself when no one else will. 3 hours and 5 drafts later, I hit submit on the Hughes Bradley application. As if on cue, a notification popped up on my phone, a social media alert I'd set for Ava's name. She'd been tagged in a photo at the golf club from 2 days ago. In the background, barely visible but unmistakable, was Cooper. I saved the photo, started a new document, and labelled it Plan B, because sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was getting very good at helping it along. My phone buzzed again, Mom demanding I come down to discuss bridesmaid duties. I turned it off and went back to work. They thought they could write off my future. I was about to show them exactly how wrong they were. It took 3 days of careful digging to find what I needed. Ava wasn't just talking to Cooper sometimes. They were meeting regularly at the country club, always when Yusuf was tied up with his development projects. But it was their late-night messages that told the real story. "Found something interesting?" Philip asked, sliding into the library seat next to me. I angled my laptop screen to show him the screenshot Vanessa had accidentally sent to our group chat, instead of just Ava, Cooper and Ava, looking very cosy at a hidden corner table. "Vanessa deleted it seconds later," I said, "but not before I saved it." "Holy shit!" He leaned closer. "Are you going to tell Yusuf?" I shook my head. "Better. I'm going to let him find out himself." My phone lit up with a text from Mom. "Wedding planner meeting in an hour. Mandatory family attendance." "Go," Philip urged. "Keep your cover. I'll finish setting up the anonymous email account." The wedding planner's office was all white furniture and fresh flowers. Ava sat in the centre of the room like a queen holding court, while Mom fawned over fabric swatches. Dad stared at his phone, probably checking his dwindling bank balance. "Nice of you to join us," Ava said sharply. "We're discussing the yacht layout." "Fascinating," I muttered, taking the furthest seat possible. The planner, a woman with too bright lipstick, spread out some diagrams. "Now, about the ceremony positioning. Yusuf's father has some concerns about—" Ava's phone chimed. Her face went pale as she read whatever message had come through. "Everything okay, sweetie?" Mum asked. "Fine," Ava snapped, typing furiously. "Just wedding stress." I hid my smile. Right on schedule, the anonymous tip about suspicious meetings at the country club would be hitting Yusuf's inbox, along with some carefully selected screenshots of late-night messages between his fiancée and her ex. The planner droned on about seating arrangements while I watched Ava grow increasingly agitated. Her phone kept buzzing. Finally, she stood up abruptly. "I need to make a call," she announced, hurrying out. I excused myself to use the bathroom, following quietly. Through the crack of the fire exit door, I could hear her panicked voice. "Cooper, you need to delete everything." "No, I don't care if you miss me. Yusuf's asking questions. Of course I still want the wedding. Do you know how much money—" She stopped short, realising what she'd said. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. Mum found me later that evening, organising scholarship documents in my room. "Ava's upset," she said, hovering in the doorway. "Apparently Yusuf is having doubts about the wedding date." "Really?" I kept my voice neutral. "That must be stressful. It would help if you showed more support. This wedding is important for all of us. Like my education was supposed to be." She sighed that martyred sigh she'd perfected over the years. "We've been through this. Sometimes in life we have to make sacrifices for family. Funny how I'm the only one sacrificing. Actually," she brightened suddenly, "I have good news. If you help more with the wedding, we might be able to spare a few thousand for community college courses." I looked up from my papers. Too late. I already have other plans. "What plans?" As if on cue, my email notification chimed. I opened it, scanning quickly, then smiled. I've been shortlisted for the Hughes Bradley Academic Excellence Award. The what? Only the most prestigious scholarship in the state. Full interview panel next week. I met her eyes. You should Google it. The grant amount is quite impressive. Her expression shifted from dismissal to calculation in seconds. Why didn't you tell us you were applying for scholarships? Like you told me about taking my college fund? Before she could respond, Ava's voice shrieked from downstairs. He wants to postpone. 6 months minimum. Mom rushed out, leaving me alone with my victory. I pulled out my phone to text Philip. Phase 1 complete. Yusuf's having doubts, Ava's spiralling, and I just made the Hughes Bradley shortlist. His response came quickly. Karma's got nothing on you, but you know they'll try to take credit if you win, right? I glanced at my scholarship essay, the one about family betrayal that had caught the committee's attention. Let them try. This time I'm writing my own story. Downstairs I could hear Ava crying about wedding deposits and reputation. Mom was probably already calling her society friends to do damage control. Perfect timing for phase 2. The local newspaper article came out on a Tuesday. Small town student among elite Hughes Bradley finalists. They'd used my senior photo, the one where I actually smiled, the one Mom had called too serious for the family Christmas card. Have you seen this? A printed copy slapped down on the coffee shop table where Philip and I were studying. Mum stood there, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Why didn't you tell us it was this big? Would it have mattered 3 weeks ago? Don't be difficult, Esme. This is wonderful news. I've already called the country club. They want to do a feature on you for the newsletter. I looked up from my textbook. The same country club where Ava's been meeting her ex? Mum's smile flickered. That's just a misunderstanding. Yusuf and Ava are working things out. Sure they are. Actually, she pressed on, sliding into the booth uninvited, I had an idea. For your final interview, they mentioned something about a speech. They did. Well, I thought you could talk about the importance of family support, how we've always encouraged your academic pursuits. Philip choked on his coffee. I kicked him under the table. That's an interesting suggestion, I said carefully. Almost as interesting as last month's family meeting. Mum's face tightened. Esme, what happened with the wedding fund was a practical decision. But look how well it turned out. You're achieving things on your own merit, because you left me no choice. Mrs. Wilson, Philip cut in, his voice dripping with fake sweetness, didn't you tell Esme she should consider being a waitress instead of wasting time on university applications? Mom stood up abruptly. I never said that exactly. Anyway, the television station wants to do a preliminary interview tomorrow. Wear something nice, not your usual this, she gestured vaguely at my clothes, and please try to sound grateful. After she left, Philip turned to me. Television interview? The Hughes Bradley Committee likes publicity. Apparently my essay about overcoming family betrayal through academic excellence really resonated. They have no idea it's still happening in real time, do they? My phone buzzed. A text from Ava. Mum says you're going to be on TV. Don't forget to mention your successful sister's upcoming society wedding. I showed Philip the message. Should I tell her Yusuf just cancelled the yacht deposit? How do you even know that? I might have set up email alerts for cancellations at the marina. I shrugged. Plus, Vanessa drunk texted me last night about Ava's meltdown over it. The next day, the TV crew set up in our living room. Mum had rearranged everything to hide Dad's worn armchair and Ava's scattered wedding magazines. She'd even put out fresh flowers. So Esme, the reporter began, tell us about your journey to the Hughes Bradley finals. I smiled directly into the camera. It's been enlightening. Sometimes life forces you to stand on your own feet, usually when you least expect it. Your family must be very proud. Oh, yes, Mom interjected from off-camera. We've always known Esme was special. Really? I turned to her. Is that why you suggested community college might be more my speed? The reporter perked up. There's a story there. No, Mum said quickly. Esme, remember what we discussed about family support? I faced the camera again. You know what? There is a story. It's about believing in yourself when no one else will. About turning betrayal into motivation. Cut, the reporter called. This is gold. Can we explore that angle more? Mum's face had gone pale. Behind her, Ava appeared in the doorway, looking thunderous. Actually, I said, I should save the full story for the awards ceremony. I hear it's going to be broadcast live. Later that night, as clips from my interview started circulating on local social media, Ava cornered me in the kitchen. You think you're so clever, she hissed, but you're just jealous. You always have been. Jealous of what? Your third failed engagement? She grabbed my arm. Yusuf and I are fine. We're just reorganizing things. Like you're reorganizing things with Cooper? Her face went white. How did you... Next time you meet him at the country club, I pulled free of her grip. Try not to sit near windows. Anyone could take a photo. You wouldn't dare. You're right, I smiled. I wouldn't. But karma's funny that way. It has its own timing. My phone chimed, an email from the Hughes-Bradley committee about the final round. The subject line read, Ceremony details, live broadcast confirmed. Better start writing your speech, Ava spat, storming out. Oh, I already had, and unlike her wedding vows, every word of it was true. Make it authentic, Mary Palmer said, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed my draft speech. The committee chose you because your story resonated. Don't hold back now. I shifted in the leather chair across from her desk. As head of the scholarship committee, Mary had become an unexpected ally, scheduling extra mentoring sessions under the guise of speech preparation. My family might be watching, I said. Good, she handed back the papers. Let them watch, let them learn. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with multiple texts from Vanessa. Emergency, Ava's bridal shower drama, need you here now. Go. Mary waved me off. But remember, authenticity wins over diplomacy every time. I found Vanessa outside the country club's private room, looking frazzled. Music and forced laughter drifted through the doors. Thank God, she grabbed my arm. Ava's 3 champagnes in and getting scary. Yusuf's mother just called to say she's too busy to attend. Shocking, I muttered, following her inside. Ava held court at the centre table, surrounded by expensive gifts and nervous-looking bridesmaids. Her mascara was slightly smudged. Finally, she called out. My baby sister decided to grace us with her presence. Too busy being a genius? Actually, nobody cares about your scholarship, she snapped, then immediately forced a laugh. I'm kidding. We're so proud. Right, girls? The bridesmaids nodded mechanically. 2 hours of painful games and passive-aggressive gift-opening later, most guests had fled. Vanessa, increasingly tipsy, cornered me by the dessert table. You know what's funny? She slurred, glancing around conspiratorially. This whole thing is your fault. Excuse me? The wedding? Ava only pushed for the yacht thing after you got those university acceptance letters. She hiccuped. Said she couldn't let you outshine her. Told your parents you'd probably drop out anyway, waste their money. My hand tightened around my glass. She what? Oh, shit. Vanessa's eyes widened. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. She made me promise. After she convinced your parents. Convinced them to do what? To give her your fund. Vanessa looked close to tears. She said you deserved it, getting all high and mighty with your academic achievements. Said she needed it more. Across the room, Ava was berating a waiter about warm champagne. Mom hovered nearby, trying to smooth things over. When? My voice came out eerily calm. When did she start planning this? Right after your MIT acceptance email. Vanessa grabbed another champagne. She saw it open on your laptop when she borrowed it that weekend. Got scared you'd actually leave, be successful, so she gestured vaguely, handled it. The room seemed to tilt slightly. All those months I'd blamed my parents, and meanwhile, Ava had orchestrated everything. "Vanessa!" Ava's sharp voice cut across the room. "Stop monopolizing my sister." "Coming!" Vanessa stumbled away, then turned back. "Don't tell her I told you. She'll kill me." I walked over to where Mom was now attempting to salvage the gift-wrapping paper from Ava's destruction. "Need help?" I asked. "Oh, would you?" Mom smiled, relieved. "And maybe talk to your sister? She's been so stressed since Yusuf's family started acting strange." "Sure." I gathered some ribbons. "Hey, Mum, quick question. Who actually suggested using my college fund for the wedding first? You or Ava?" Her hands stilled. We all discussed it." "Really? When?" "Esme, what does it matter now? You're doing so well on your own." "The scholarship..." "Just answer the question." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Ava mentioned that perhaps university wasn't the best path for you, that you seemed uncertain." "Uncertain?" I laughed quietly. "I had 3 acceptance letters. She said you were having doubts, that you'd be happier starting smaller, staying close to home." I stood up, letting the ribbons fall. "And you believed her, without even asking me." "Esme!" "It's fine." I pulled out my phone, opening my email. I just needed to confirm something for my speech, the one that's being broadcast live next week. Her face paled. "What are you planning to say?" "The truth." I headed for the door, pausing briefly. "By the way, you might want to check Ava's phone, specifically her messages with Cooper, before Yusuf's family does." Outside, I called Philip. "How was the shower?" he asked. "Educational." I started walking, needing to move. "Remember how we wondered who really orchestrated taking my college fund?" "No way!" "Yes way!" "And now I know exactly how I'm ending my speech." I smiled grimly. "They wanted me to be authentic. They're about to get their wish." Behind me, I could hear Ava's voice rising in another champagne-fueled tantrum. Soon, she'd have much bigger problems than warm drinks and missing future in-laws. The countdown to the ceremony had begun. The Hughes Bradley Ceremony Hall buzzed with anticipation. Local news crews set up their equipment while academic dignitaries mingled with donors. I stood backstage, watching through a gap in the curtains as my family filed into their reserved front row seats. "Nervous?" Philip appeared beside me, adjusting his tie. "Not anymore." I showed him my phone, another series of desperate texts from Ava about Yusuf's growing suspicions. "Some things matter more than nerves. Your sister looks like she's about to explode." He wasn't wrong. Ava sat rigid in her chair, compulsively checking her phone. Mum kept trying to fix her hair while Dad stared straight ahead, probably calculating the cost of cancelling wedding vendors. "5 minutes, Miss Wilson," a stage manager called out. Mary Palmer approached, clipboard in hand. "Remember what we discussed. Your story deserves to be heard." The ceremony began with the usual speeches, board members congratulating themselves, donors highlighting their generosity. Finally, the committee chairman stepped up to the podium. "This year's recipient exemplifies everything the Hughes Bradley Award represents. Through extraordinary circumstances, she maintained academic excellence while demonstrating remarkable resilience." Mom was already half standing, ready to start, accepting congratulations. Ava's phone buzzed again. She jumped like she'd been shocked. "Please welcome Esme Wilson." The applause felt distant as I walked onto the stage. Under the bright lights, I could see every detail of my family's faces. Mom's proud smile, too little, too late. Dad's awkward clapping, Ava's barely concealed scowl. "Thank you," I began, unfolding my speech. "I wasn't supposed to be here today. In fact, I was told I had no potential." The audience quieted. In the front row, Mom's smile froze. 3 months ago, I had a different future planned. I had acceptance letters from 3 universities. I had a college fund I'd contributed to since I was 15. I had dreams. Ava shifted uncomfortably. Her phone lit up again, probably another message from Cooper. Then I learned an important lesson about family. Sometimes the people meant to support you are the ones who tear you down. Sometimes your own sister, I paused, meeting Ava's eyes directly, decides your future is worth sacrificing for her third wedding. A murmur ran through the crowd. Mum half rose, as if to stop me, but Dad pulled her back down. My college fund was taken without my knowledge or consent. $40,000 redirected to pay for a yacht wedding venue. When I objected, I was told to consider waitressing, to be realistic, to know my place. The news cameras moved closer. This wasn't the usual grateful scholarship speech they'd expected. But here's what my family didn't understand. When you strip someone of everything, you also strip away their reason to hold back. When you tell someone they're nothing, you give them the freedom to become anything. Ava's phone buzzed again. She grabbed her purse, looking ready to bolt. So I applied for every scholarship I could find. I worked 3 jobs. I turned betrayal into fuel. And now I'm standing here, proving that sometimes the people who try to break you actually make you unbreakable. In the audience, Mary Palmer nodded approvingly. Mum had her head in her hands. This award isn't just about academic achievement. It's about surviving when the odds are stacked against you. It's about... Ava suddenly stood up, phone pressed to her ear, and rushed toward the exit. Through the open door, I caught a glimpse of Yusuf standing there, his face thunderous. It's about karma, I continued smoothly, and justice, and learning that success is the best revenge. The applause that followed was deafening. As I accepted the award, I saw Mom trying to follow Ava while simultaneously maintaining her social composure. Dad just looked defeated. Backstage afterward, Philip hugged me tight. That was beautiful, and Yusuf showing up, perfect timing. Almost like someone made sure he knew about the ceremony, I smiled, and about certain messages on Ava's phone. You're terrifying. I love it. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. OMG, Yusuf just called everything off. Ava's hysterical. Your mom's having a meltdown in the bathroom. Karma's funny that way, I said, showing Philip the message. Sometimes it needs a little push, but once it starts rolling... Through the curtain, I could still hear the buzz of conversation, the news crews packing up their equipment. My story would be all over local media by tonight. Ready to face them? Philip asked. I tucked the scholarship certificate into my folder, right next to my new university acceptance letter. They're the ones who need to be ready. This was just the beginning. The real show was about to start. The aftermath exploded faster than even I had anticipated. By midnight, my speech had gone viral on 3 different social platforms. Local news ran with the headline, Scholar exposes family betrayal in acceptance speech. But it was the country club gossip circuit that delivered the final blow. They're calling it the scandal of the season, Vanessa told me over coffee the next morning. Her eyes were red from crying. Yusuf's family is demanding their gifts back. The yacht company won't refund the deposit, and those messages between Ava and Cooper, all of them got leaked, I asked innocently. Someone anonymously forwarded everything to Yusuf's entire family, even the intimate ones. She shuddered. Ava's locked herself in her room. Your mum had to cancel her charity board meeting because nobody would sit with her. My phone buzzed. Dad calling for the 5th time. I declined it. You know what's crazy? Vanessa continued, stirring her latte. People keep sharing clips of your speech, talking about how inspiring it is. Like rich kids are actually posting about giving their college funds back to their siblings. I smiled. Karma's going mainstream. The bell above the coffee shop door chimed. Mum walked in, looking distinctly unput together for the first time in my memory. When she spotted me, she made a beeline for our table. Esme, she said, her voice tight, we need to talk. I'm busy. Your sister is devastated. The wedding is cancelled. Our reputation is exactly what you deserve. I cut in. How's it feel to be the family everyone's talking about? Vanessa suddenly found her phone fascinating. We made a mistake, Mom admitted, sliding into an empty chair. We should have discussed the money with you, but to humiliate us publicly, to destroy your sister's engagement. I didn't destroy anything. Ava did that herself, with Cooper's help, of course. She told me what you did, setting up that email account, tracking her messages. Like she tracked my university acceptances. I leaned forward. Yeah, Vanessa told me all about that. How Ava saw my MIT letter and decided to sabotage my future. How she convinced you I wasn't worth investing in. Mum's face went pale. That's not... She wouldn't... Check your phone, I said. Someone just posted screenshots of her messages about it in the country club Facebook group. Fascinating reading. As if on cue, her phone started buzzing with notifications. She pulled it out, scrolling with shaking hands. I watched her expression crumble as she read. Oh, God, she whispered. I have to go. Vanessa stood up abruptly. Ava's calling. Again. After she left, Mum looked at me with tears in her eyes. We can fix this. Return the money. Too late. I start at MIT in the fall. Full ride, thanks to Hughes Bradley. But your sister has 2 failed marriages, a cancelled 3rd engagement, and a leaked affair to deal with. Sounds like a her problem. We're still your family. No, I stood up, gathering my things. You're the people who taught me that success is the best revenge. Congratulations. I learned that lesson perfectly. Outside, Philip was waiting. How'd it go? Better than expected. Want to help me pack for college? My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Ava. You ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I typed back, actually I am. BTW Cooper just went live on Instagram. Might want to check that out. We drove past the country club on our way home. The parking lot was full, probably an emergency board meeting about the scandal. Dad's car was there, no doubt trying to salvage what remained of their social standing. You know what's funny? I told Philip as we passed. They thought taking my college fund was the end of my story. Turns out it was just the beginning. Remind me never to cross you, he laughed. My phone lit up with a news alert. Local wedding scandal exposes social elite. Full story tonight at 6. Perfect timing. Just when the country club happy hour would be starting. I wondered if they'd be serving karma on the rocks. Ready for the next chapter? Philip asked. I looked at my phone one last time before turning it off. Mum was still typing, probably crafting another plea for family unity. Ava's Instagram had gone private. Dad's name was trending in local Twitter discussions about toxic family dynamics. You know what? I smiled. For the first time in my life, I actually am. The sun was setting over the country club as we drove away, casting long shadows over the perfectly manicured lawn where Ava's wedding was supposed to happen. But I wasn't looking back anymore. Some people collect seashells or stamps. I collected consequences, and my collection was finally complete. Last box, Philip announced, setting down a container labelled books in my new dorm room. Want to grab dinner before I head back? Through the window I could see other freshmen and their families unloading cars, sharing tearful hugs. My own family's absence felt less like a wound now and more like a clean break. Actually, I pulled out my phone, I have one last thing to do first. Mum's latest voicemail played on speaker. Esme, please, the country club board is meeting tomorrow about our membership. Your father's business partners are asking questions. Can't we just talk? Still no response? Philip asked. Nope, but I did get this. I showed him an email from Vanessa. Ava moved back in with your parents. Cooper ghosted her after the Instagram Live confession. She's telling everyone she's finding herself, but mostly she's just drinking wine and watching reality TV. Karma's really putting in overtime with your family. My laptop pinged. A news alert about Dad's development company losing investors after the scandal. Apparently, social humiliation was bad for business. Ready? Philip gestured to my phone. I nodded, opening my drafts folder. The message I'd been crafting for days sat there waiting. Not an apology, they didn't deserve that. But maybe something like closure. To Mom, Dad, Ava. Subject, goodbye. You taught me 3 valuable lessons. 1, never trust family with your dreams. 2, success is the best revenge. 3, sometimes losing everything is how you find yourself. Thank you for these gifts. They were expensive, about $40,000 worth, but ultimately priceless. Don't contact me again. Don't try to explain or apologize. Your actions spoke louder than any words could. Mum, enjoy explaining to your society friends why your daughter's viral speech keeps resurfacing in social justice discussions. Dad, good luck rebuilding your business reputation. Maybe start with rebuilding your backbone. Ava, I hear 3rd time's the charm with marriages. Oh wait, I'm blocking your numbers after this. Consider it my wedding gift to myself. The freedom from toxic family ties. Esme P.S. The country club board might be interested in those screenshots of Ava admitting she orchestrated the whole college fund theft. Just saying. Send it, Philip asked. I hit the button. Sent. How does it feel? Before I could answer, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom calling, Dad texting, Ava sending multiple messages in all caps. I blocked each number one by one. With each block, my smile grew wider. It feels like... I looked around my dorm room at the future I'd carved out despite them. Victory. Miss Wilson? A knock at the door revealed Mary Palmer. Sorry to interrupt your moving in, but the university paper wants to do a follow-up story on your Hughes Bradley speech. Apparently it's sparked quite a movement about family financial abuse. Of course it has, Philip grinned. Also, Mary continued, we've had several donors reach out about establishing scholarships specifically for students whose families have diverted their college funds. They're calling it the Esme Initiative. I sat down on my newly made bed, letting that sink in. My revenge hadn't just changed my life, it was going to help others escape similar situations. Would you be interested in consulting on the program? Mary asked. Absolutely. After she left, Philip helped me hang up my last decoration, a framed copy of the viral news article about my speech. You know what's wild? He said. Your family thought they were writing you off as worthless. Instead, they accidentally wrote themselves into infamy. My laptop pinged again, an email from Vanessa. Your mum just got voted off the charity board. Ava's crying about being uninvited from Sophia's wedding. Dad's office is half empty, but hey, at least they still have each other, right? BTW, Cooper's engaged to someone else already. Karma's really out here doing the Lord's work. I closed my laptop, ready to leave the drama behind. Want to grab that dinner? I'm thinking somewhere expensive. I've got a full scholarship to celebrate. Walking across campus, I spotted other students watching me, whispering about the girl from that speech. But their whispers didn't hurt anymore. They were just echoes of a story I'd already finished writing. Hey, Philip nudged me. You did it. You really did it. No, I corrected him, looking up at the setting sun. They did it. I just made sure everyone knew exactly what they'd done. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well, it's living spectacularly while those who wronged you watch their carefully constructed facades crumble to dust. And I was just getting started.
Since both my parents worked full-time, I attended daycare from a young age and grew up watching them work tirelessly every day. Inspired by their dedication, I dreamed of becoming a successful career woman, an independent person who could stand on her own without relying on anyone else. Fueled by this ambition and my naturally strong personality, I became highly competitive as a child. If I fell during a race in PE class, I would get back up without crying, determined to finish strong. If I didn't score at the top of my class on a test, I'd stay up late studying until I achieved better results. Failure was never an option for me. You don't always have to be number one, Sarah, my parents would say. We just want you to shine as yourself. we're proud of your hard work, but remember, it's important to lean on your family too. We're here to support you." I carried that advice with me as I entered a prestigious high school known for its rigorous academic standards. Passing the entrance exam with top scores was a milestone, and it was there that I first met Mark, someone who would eventually change my life. Mark had the highest grades in the entrance exam and delivered the freshman speech at the opening ceremony. "I've always worked hard and never feared failure," he said during his speech. "It's okay not to be number one. I believe failure is a valuable experience." Those words resonated deeply with me, reminding me of my father's similar encouragements. I felt an instant connection to Mark. As fate would have it, we were placed in the same advanced class, a group of the top students in the school. Despite the competitive environment, Mark consistently outperformed everyone. As we grew closer, Mark shared stories of his upbringing. "I've never placed second in academics or sports," he said, his tone a mix of pride and humility. "My mom was strict, but I'm grateful. It made me capable of handling almost anything." Meeting his mother at the entrance ceremony, I understood where his drive came from. She exuded strength and sophistication, and her influence was evident in Mark's achievements. Over our 3 years of high school together, Mark excelled at everything. He was a class leader, the anchor for our relay team, the choir competition conductor, and always topped the exams. Though I admired him deeply, and had a quiet crush, I never acted on my feelings. He seemed out of reach, a level of perfection I could only aspire to. After high school, I focused on my own goals, determined to carve out a path of success. I faced multiple job rejections, but I never gave up. Eventually, I landed a position at a top company, a prestigious opportunity, even though it was my 5th choice. This marked my first step toward my childhood dream of becoming a career woman. As one of the few women hired for a general position at the time, I worked tirelessly. My days were a blur of travel, running in heels I wasn't yet used to, and striving for both financial and emotional independence. While I occasionally exchanged emails with my parents, I avoided burdening them with my struggles. I knew they were aging, and I wanted to reassure them that I could handle things on my own. Yet, as I approached 30, I couldn't help but feel unsettled watching my friends settle down and start families. When an invitation to my high school reunion arrived, I decided to step away from my work-focused life for a night and attend. Seeing my old classmates was both surreal and heartwarming. Amid the laughter and reminiscing, I heard a familiar voice. "Sarah, is that you? Wow, you look amazing." "Mark." I turned to see him, looking just as sharp as I remembered. "It's been so long, you haven't aged a bit." We fell into easy conversation, catching up on the years we had missed. Mark was now a top salesman at a multinational company, a dream role I had once aspired to myself. "I just won first place in the company's young sales division," he shared with a modest smile. "They even held an award ceremony for me." Mark still carried the aura of an elite achiever, but he was more laid back than I remembered. His suit fit him perfectly, and I couldn't help but admire the man he had become. As we talked, I told him about my own career and how hard I had been working. That night, our connection rekindled, and soon after, we began dating. Although our busy schedules limited how much time we could spend together, I was happier than I had been in years. Slowly, I began to consider that life might be more than just work. Perhaps it was time to build something lasting, a home, a family, a future beyond my career. On our 1-year anniversary, Mark proposed, and I said yes. After more than a decade, we were finally coming together. At 30, marriage felt like a significant milestone, filling me with both joy and uncertainty. My demanding job required me to travel frequently, and I faced a difficult choice: should I request a transfer, stay in my current role, or even consider a career change? Mark, ever supportive, reminded me how much I loved my work. I trusted that Mark would support whatever decision I made, though I carried mixed feelings as I went to meet his mother, Amy. Since Mark's father had passed away a few years earlier, it was just her now. Amy had always seemed strict, but when I saw her again, she looked even thinner and more severe than I remembered. "So, you're Sarah," she said, her eyes assessing me. "I hear you were Mark's classmate in high school. Graduating from that school means you must be quite smart." "I'm not sure about smart," I replied nervously, "but I work hard. I'm at a large company in a position not typically held by women. I'm currently leading a major project." As I continued explaining myself, Amy suddenly smiled. That's enough. I can see you're very capable." I felt a wave of relief, thinking I'd earned her approval, but then she added, "You know, I don't need a career woman. A woman's job is to take care of the home," sent her husband off with a smile. have a warm meal ready when he returns, and raise the children properly. That's what I did, and it's what I expect from you." Her words left me stunned. Mark had never mentioned any of this. "She's right," Mark said casually. "I'll make the money, you don't need to work." Although being a successful, independent woman had been my childhood dream, I couldn't deny that I was physically and mentally exhausted from the demands of my job. Amy pressed on. "A woman's happiness is in supporting her husband. If you keep working, people might think Mark can't support his family." I looked to Mark for support, but he just nodded in agreement with his mother. It shocked me. I thought times had changed, that people no longer saw working wives as a reflection on their husbands. "But I'm not very good at housework," I protested weakly. "I've focused on my career, so I might need some help." "That's concerning," Amy said, frowning, "but I can teach you. After all, we'll be living together." "Living together?" I asked, startled. Mark had never mentioned this. "Yes," Amy said matter-of-factly. "This house is too big for me alone. There's plenty of space for you, Mark, and any future grandkids. Why waste money on a separate home?" I felt overwhelmed and trapped by her expectations. Just as I was trying to process it all, Mark spoke again. "I'm not the kind of guy who needs his wife to work," he said. "I make more than enough to support us. Besides, you're so talented that if you ever want to go back to work, I'm sure you'll find something quickly." His confidence in my abilities felt like a small consolation. I decided to give their way a try and resigned from my job. My colleagues were surprised and tried to convince me to stay, but they also told me I was welcome back anytime if I changed my mind. Their encouragement gave me a sense of security as I left the workforce. The next few months were spent learning from Amy. She was strict, but after years of working in a tough, male-dominated environment, her sternness didn't faze me. Not long after, I found out I was pregnant. When our daughter Lily was born, Mark was overjoyed, and to my surprise, Amy doted on Lily. "Lily is just the cutest, isn't she?" Amy would coo, her affection heartwarming but fleeting. Her demands on me increased. "I'll take care of Lily, you focus on the housework," she'd say. "We're running low on supplies, can you do the shopping?" Dragging my postpartum body around to keep up with the housework was exhausting, but having Amy care for Lily was helpful. Mark was rarely home, busy with work, so I appreciated the support, even if it came with constant demands. Amy's generosity extended only to Lily and Mark. She made sure Lily had the best of everything but never offered me so much as a kind word. Mark's career soared as he climbed the ranks at his company, seemingly invincible, until he wasn't. One evening, when Lily was in upper elementary school, Mark came home looking pale and defeated. "Mark, what's wrong?" I asked, concerned. He slumped into a chair and buried his face in his hands. "It's over," he said. "I made a huge mistake at work. The client was furious, my boss berated me, and even my juniors pitied me. I couldn't take it, so I quit." I stared at him in disbelief. "You quit? Over one mistake? Lily's about to start private middle school, we need that income." Even Amy, usually unflappable, looked distressed. "Can't you go back and apologize? Fix things?" she asked. "No," Mark said firmly, "I can't show my face there again. Everyone thinks I'm a failure." Mark had never faced failure before, and now he was completely unraveling. He locked himself in his room, leaving me to pick up the pieces. "Sarah," Amy said sharply, "you need to go out and work." "But you always said a woman's job is to stay home," I protested. Amy's face hardened. "The inheritance is gone. Mark's probably spent most of your savings too. We have no choice." Stunned, I realized how little I'd known about our financial situation. There was no time to dwell on it. I reached out to my old company, relying on my career experience and determination, and was fortunate to be rehired. I threw myself into work, becoming the family's breadwinner. Though the transition was overwhelming, we stabilized financially. Lily attended private school, and I supported Amy and Mark. Mark remained distant, his bitterness showing in his silence and occasional barbs. I wanted to urge him to rebuild his life, but held back, focusing instead on keeping our family afloat. Amy, for her part, returned to her old ways, showing little gratitude and worrying only about Mark's well-being. Meanwhile, Mark began withdrawing more, taking money from our accounts and wandering aimlessly. Looking back, I couldn't help but wonder how things had spiraled so far. I realized I should have left or confronted Mark long ago, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon the man who had once supported me. While I worked tirelessly, Mark wasted his days in idleness. Lily, now old enough to understand, watched her father with a mix of sadness and disdain. And it was clear Mark sensed her disappointment. The tension at home was suffocating. When Lily was in middle school, Mark finally left us. He left a note. "You'll be fine without me. I found someone who needs me." I was stunned. Amy, in her grief, lashed out at me. "This is your fault. You drove him away. I never want to see you or Lily again." She even tried to evict us. "Wait, how will you manage without me?" I asked, bewildered. "Don't underestimate me. I don't need you," she snapped. And so, Lily and I packed our things and left the house. By then, Lily was mature enough to help with household chores while I focused on my career. We were busy, but we found happiness in our small but peaceful life. I didn't file for divorce immediately since I had no idea where Mark was. After 7 years of no contact, he was legally declared dead, which simplified the process. 10 years passed. Lily graduated from university and started her career, becoming a strong, successful woman. I was proud of her, and of myself, for navigating the hardships we faced. I was dating Tom, a kind and dependable man, and we lived together in a cozy home. Life felt complete. Then, one day, I received a call from an unknown number. Thinking it might be work-related, I answered. "Sarah, it's me. I had a hard time finding your number," the voice said. It was Mark. "What do you want?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I'm in trouble. Please help me. We're still family, right? It's your duty to help your husband." The nerve of him. "You abandoned us for 10 years. How dare you call now? We're not family anymore. Don't contact me again." I hung up, furious and shaken. I didn't tell Tom about the call and tried to move on. But a few days later, I returned home early to find shadows near my front door. Fearing it was an intruder, I approached cautiously. It was Mark and Amy. "Finally, you're home. We've been waiting," Mark said, looking desperate. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "Please, Sarah, we've had our differences, but we're still family. I need your help." Mark explained that after leaving me, he had moved in with a younger woman named Emily, who needed him. However, their life quickly spiraled out of control. Mark worked low-paying jobs to maintain a facade of success, borrowing heavily to impress Emily. Amy, who had tracked Mark down, moved in with him, only to find herself living in poverty. "I'm drowning in debt. We're still married. Sarah, let's start over. You're doing well, right?" Mark pleaded. Before I could respond, Lily arrived home. "What's going on here?" she asked. Mark turned to her, his face softening. "Lily, you've grown so much. You look just like me. We're family." Lily's voice was firm. "No, we're not. Mom and I have been fine without you." Mark tried to argue, claiming we were still married, but Lily stopped him. "Mom filed for divorce years ago. You were legally declared dead after 7 years of no contact." Mark and Amy were stunned. "But that's impossible. You can't do that without my permission," Mark stammered. "Of course, she could. My stepdad, Tom, is a lawyer, and he handled everything," Lily said. Mark's face turned pale, desperate. He tried to defend himself. "I didn't mean for things to get this bad. Emily needed me." I smiled grimly. "Emily? Did you ever learn her last name?" Mark shook his head. "No, she said she didn't like sharing personal details. Her last name is Stone. She's married to your former boss, Mr. Stone." Mark's face drained of color as I explained. Emily had used him for years, while her husband remained unaware of her lavish spending, until recently. Mr. Stone had hired a private investigator, uncovering everything. Just then, Tom arrived home. "What's going on here, Mark? If you're here to cause trouble, leave now. This is private property." Defeated, Mark and Amy left. Not long after, Mark faced legal consequences for his actions. Mr. Stone divorced Emily, and their lives were shattered. As for me, I had finally achieved the life I always dreamed of. Lily had grown into a strong, independent woman, and I knew she would never settle for less than she deserved. Tom and I chose not to marry, finding happiness in our partnership without legal formalities. I had overcome every obstacle and emerged stronger, and I hoped Lily would always remember to chase her dreams and never let anyone hold her back. "I'm going on a business trip. Don't you dare call me unless it's a real emergency," my husband yelled as he hastily packed for his weekend away. All I had done was mention that I'd only contact him in case of an emergency, but his irritation was palpable. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, his usual sign of disdain. Of course, I knew the truth. This wasn't a business trip at all. He was off on a weekend getaway with his mistress. "If you keep bothering me with your nonsense, I'll claim emotional distress and sue you," he added, his threats as absurd as they were cruel. Over time, it had become clear that John had lost all sense of empathy. He ignored our sick daughter, prioritized his own selfish desires, and neglected his family entirely. I didn't dare stand up to him. I was just trying to protect myself and our children. On the day of his so-called business trip, fate intervened. I accidentally learned that John had been in a severe car accident. His earlier command echoed in my mind, "Don't contact me under any circumstances." A part of me felt conflicted, but his indifference had long taught me to prioritize my own peace of mind. Whatever happened to him was no longer my concern. Besides, I was holding on to a secret of my own, something he didn't know and never would. A wry smile crept onto my face as I turned off my phone, shutting out his chaos. "My name is Mary. I'm 34 years old, a handmade artist working from home. Creating accessories and crafts has been my passion since childhood. I turned it into a hobby, then a side business after leaving my job to raise our 2 children, Ethan, an 8th grader, and Claire, a 6th grader. Once Claire started school, I had the chance to revive my craft, selling my creations online. John, my husband, is 2 years older than me. We first met in high school and reconnected at a reunion years later. He works in construction management, a field he entered inspired by his father's legacy. His father had spent decades at the same company, continuing even past retirement, and John idolized him for it. Unfortunately, that admiration translated into John putting his career above all else, including his family. John's parents, both in their 70s, were active and frequently dropped by unannounced. While they claimed to visit out of affection, I often found their presence intrusive. From the beginning, my relationship with them had been strained. They made tactless comments about my work, belittling my handmade crafts as not being real work. The worst, however, was their lack of respect for our daughter Claire's severe shellfish allergy. If she ingests even a trace, it could be life-threatening. Yet they dismissed her condition as a picky eating habit and even tried sneaking shellfish into her meals. "It's all in her head," they would say. "If you just expose her to it gradually, she'll outgrow it. Allergies are just overblown nonsense." I had to be constantly vigilant. Whenever they visited, I ensured they were never alone with Claire, but their behavior became so reckless that I begged John to intervene. "Your parents are putting Claire in danger," I pleaded. "Please ask them to stop coming over unannounced. They're just trying to help." He replied dismissively, "They care about Claire. You're overreacting. Mary, stop worrying so much." John always sided with his parents, leaving me to shoulder the household responsibilities alone. He was exhausted from work, and I became his emotional punching bag. The only person who truly understood my plight was Ethan. Though he didn't have allergies himself, he adored Claire and went out of his way to help, checking food labels and standing up to his grandparents. One day, after John left for work, I received a midday call. "Can you clean my parents' house today? Mom's at her exercise class, and they need it done before she gets back. The kids are at school, and you're at home doing nothing, so it's no big deal," he said casually. "I have work too, John," I reminded him. "Don't act high and mighty about your little hobby, just do it." He hung up without waiting for my response, once again dismissing my time and effort as inconsequential. Resigned, I went to his parents' house. As I entered, the phone rang. Assuming it was a sales call, I answered. To my surprise, it was someone from John's company. His father had left critical documents at home, and they needed them urgently. They'd been trying to reach John's mother, but there was no response. I grabbed the documents from the table and decided to deliver them to the office. Why do I always get dragged into these things? I thought, exhausted by the constant demands. Even though it was just a short drive, the weight of it felt overwhelming. When I arrived at the company, I was greeted by one of John's coworkers, the same person who had called earlier. I recognized him from our wedding and the occasional times I had picked John up from work events. "Thank you, Mrs. Brown," he said sincerely. I didn't want to risk offending Mr. Brown's pride by calling him directly, so I tried his parents' house instead. "I'm glad you were there to help." His words seemed genuine, and he asked me to keep the matter a secret from John's father. As I turned to leave, he said something that stopped me in my tracks. "By the way, how's your daughter doing?" John mentioned her allergy. He said he's been taking days off to care for her. I froze. My mind raced as I tried to process what he had just said. John hadn't taken a single day off for Claire. He had gone to work as usual. Thinking it was a misunderstanding, I pressed for details. It turned out John had been telling his coworkers that he was taking time off to care for our daughter. My head spun as I drove home, trying to make sense of it all. When I arrived, the kids were already asleep. Hoping to calm my nerves, I switched on the TV, but I couldn't focus. Late that night, John finally came home, his usual irritated demeanor in full force. "You didn't clean my parents' house today," he snapped. Mom called to complain. I had completely forgotten about returning to his parents' house after visiting his office. "I went to their house, but then I had to take something to your father's office," I explained. John's eyebrow twitched, and he scratched his head, a nervous habit of his. His reaction only made me more suspicious. "Who told you to go to the company?" he asked, his tone unusually sharp. I could see the worry in his eyes, but I decided to play dumb. "No one. I just dropped off the documents and left. I forgot about the cleaning after that." John sighed, his tension visibly easing. "Whatever. Just apologize to Mom tomorrow. I'm tired and going to bed." As he walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. That night, as I lay awake, I pieced together the clues: the lie about taking time off, his constant absences, and his overreactions. It all pointed to one thing: John was cheating on me. And if he was using Claire's allergy as an excuse to cover for his infidelity, I couldn't forgive him. Claire had already endured so much: teasing at school, being excluded from social activities, and constantly having to explain her condition. Ethan and I worked hard to support her, both emotionally and physically. Meanwhile, John dismissed her struggles as trivial while exploiting them for his own selfish purposes. I was consumed with anger and frustration, unable to sleep that night. By morning, I had made a decision. I hired a private investigator to uncover the truth. It hurt to spend the money I had painstakingly earned from my online business, but I needed to know. Each day, I anxiously awaited the investigator's report. A few weeks later, the results confirmed my worst fears. John was cheating. He was skipping work 2 to 3 times a week to meet his mistress, driving her around, and even spending nights at hotels with her. She was young, likely in her 20s, with long black hair and a confident, sharp look. She was stunning, beautiful enough to catch anyone's eye. Seeing the photos still left me speechless. Despite everything, it hurt to see the life we had built together crumble, but instead of sadness, I felt anger and disgust. Determined to move forward, I gathered more evidence with the investigator and consulted a lawyer to prepare for divorce. I started learning about alimony, child support, and custody. My thoughts were no longer on the past I shared with John, but on the future I would build for myself and my children. A few days later, John came home late again. "I have to work this weekend," he said nonchalantly. "The next job site is far away, so I'm going there for a preliminary survey. I'll be back on Sunday." I knew it was another lie. His coworker had told me weeks ago that John's role had shifted to an office-based position. Overnight trips were no longer part of his job. He was likely planning another weekend getaway with his mistress. "I see," I replied calmly, "but if anything happens while you're away, I'll call you immediately. Claire's been under the weather, and with your parents going on a trip, we don't have anyone else to rely on. Don't call me for anything trivial," he snapped, his irritation evident. "I'll be busy working." He stormed off to the bedroom, but his overreaction only fueled my suspicions. That night, I retrieved his credit card from its hiding spot, annoyed that he might be spending money on his mistress. Logging into the credit card company's website, I entered the password. John always used the same one. Logging into John's credit card account was surprisingly easy. As I scanned the charges, one stood out: a transaction at a luxury inn located in a secluded mountain area accessible only by car. My heart sank. I looked up the inn online, and it was exactly the kind of place John would try to pass off as a gift for his parents. But I knew better. His parents were vacationing at a seaside hotel, not a mountain retreat. John was clearly planning a getaway with his mistress, so eager to enjoy the trip that he had lashed out at me earlier to ensure nothing disrupted his plans. Disgusted by his behavior, I decided to take the next step toward freedom. I opened an apartment rental website and scheduled viewings for the weekend. By the time Saturday morning came, John was gone, leaving with an overnight bag and barely saying a word. Claire watched him leave from the breakfast table, and Ethan, still recovering from a cold, lounged on the couch. After tidying up, I got ready to leave. "I'll be back later. Take care of each other, okay?" I said. "Where are you going, Mom?" Claire asked. "I'll tell you later," I replied, keeping my tone light. "Ethan, keep an eye on Claire." "Got it," he mumbled. I planned to tell them about the divorce after securing a new place for us. John's bond with the kids was weak at best. Ethan resented his father's dismissive attitude toward Claire's allergy, so I doubted they would be shocked by the news. With John's parents also out of town, it felt like the perfect opportunity to take action. I spent all of Saturday viewing apartments and, by evening, finally found one that met all my needs. It was too late to sign the contract, so I planned to return the next day. As I drove home, I wondered if John was enjoying his romantic getaway. The thought enraged me, but I reassured myself that I was making progress. The next morning, I left the kids at home again and went to finalize the apartment lease. The process went smoothly, and I signed the contract, paying the necessary fees. It felt like I'd been hemorrhaging money lately, on the investigator, the lawyer, and now this apartment, but I told myself it was an investment in a better future. Just as I was leaving the real estate office, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "What's wrong, Ethan?" I asked, hearing panic in his voice. "Mom, it's Claire." She collapsed. "We're on the way to the hospital in an ambulance." I could hear the wail of sirens in the background. My hands trembled as I clutched the phone. Ethan passed it to a paramedic, who explained that Claire was in anaphylactic shock. My mind reeled. How had this happened? I had been so careful with her meals, ensuring there were no allergens. Shaken, I rushed to my car. My hands were trembling so much that I struggled to start the engine. Realizing I needed help, I reluctantly called John. If he was checking out of the inn by now, he should have been reachable, but no matter how many times I tried, he didn't pick up. My frustration surged, but it also grounded me. Taking a deep breath, I drove straight to the hospital. When I arrived, Ethan was waiting outside the examination room. "Is Claire okay?" I asked, my voice quivering. The doctor approached, his expression calm. "Mrs. Brown, your daughter is stable now. Her blood pressure dropped significantly, but we managed to stabilize her. She's resting peacefully." A wave of relief washed over me, and tears welled in my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered, overcome by the close call. "Your son acted quickly by calling for an ambulance," the doctor added. "He's a remarkable young man." Ethan looked down, avoiding my gaze, but I couldn't have been prouder. As the doctor explained Claire's condition and the need for hospitalization, I left briefly to retrieve her insurance card. While sorting through the documents at home, I noticed John's card was still there. If he was on an overnight trip, shouldn't he have taken it? I didn't have time to dwell on it. After grabbing the card, I rushed back to the hospital, confirmed Claire's stable condition, and began the admission paperwork. As I filled out the forms, Ethan nudged my arm and pointed to the TV in the hospital lobby. "Mom, look at that," he said. On the screen was breaking news about a single-car accident on a mountain road. The footage showed a vehicle that had crashed through a guardrail, its front mangled, but the rear, where the license plate was visible, relatively intact. Ethan and I recognized the car immediately. It was John's. The report mentioned that the two passengers had been taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. My stomach turned at the confirmation that he had been with another woman. Ethan didn't say anything further, but I wondered if he had already guessed I was planning to divorce his father. The shame of letting things spiral to this point weighed on me. Just then, my phone rang again. It was John. I hesitated, remembering his dismissive words from earlier. "Don't call me for anything trivial." Now, desperate and likely scared, he was the one blowing up my phone. The irony was unbearable. After letting the call ring out, I silenced the phone. This isn't trivial, but it's not my problem anymore, I thought. I finished the paperwork and took Ethan home, where John's parents were waiting outside despite the late hour. I was already exhausted from the ordeal with Clara. Dealing with John's parents was the last thing I wanted. I left Ethan in the car and approached them. "Mary, where have you been? This is an emergency. We've been trying to reach you," John's mother snapped. I had my phone off. I replied curtly. "John's been in a car accident. He needed surgery and will be in the hospital for 2 weeks. He called us when you didn't answer," she continued, her voice rising with accusation. "Oh, is that so?" I said, feigning indifference. "That's all you have to say? How can you be so calm when your husband is in such a serious condition? Do you even care about him?" Their words ignited a simmering anger that I had been holding back for far too long. This was it. I was done. "Clara was rushed to the hospital today in an ambulance," I began, my voice trembling but steady with resolve. "She had a severe allergic reaction, and her life was at risk. I know you've heard this before, so don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about." I pulled the evidence from my bag, the rice crackers that had nearly cost Clara her life, and held them out. Their expressions changed immediately, a clear sign of guilt. They scratched their heads nervously, a habit they shared with John whenever they were caught off guard. "Ethan told me you came to our house today, claiming you were bringing back souvenirs from your trip. He said you showed him the usual rice crackers that Clara eats, but after Ethan left, Clara had a severe reaction in the living room. I gestured to the crackers. These aren't the usual kind. They're a limited edition flavor containing shrimp, but the box doesn't indicate that. Did you give Clara the shrimp crackers and then hide the evidence? John's mother stammered. We thought it would be fine. It's just in her head. I cut her off. I spoke to a lawyer. Intentionally giving someone an allergen when you know they're allergic could be considered assault. That's ridiculous. We were just thinking of you when we bought them. Thinking of me? My voice rose. You knowingly bought something dangerous and nearly killed my daughter. I'll never forgive you for this. Their protests fell on deaf ears as I unleashed the anger I had bottled up for so long. We came to tell you about John's accident, not argue, John's father interrupted, desperate to change the subject. I don't care about his accident, I said coldly. He was on a trip with his mistress. I handed them the evidence I had gathered from the private investigator. Their stunned silence confirmed they had no defense. I'm filing for divorce and suing all of you for damages, I concluded. At that moment, a police car pulled up. I had asked Ethan to call the authorities on our way home. The officers approached John's parents, requesting them to come in for questioning regarding potential assault charges. 2 weeks later, I received a call from the hospital where John was staying. The staff informed me that John had been demanding I visit. Reluctantly, I went, knowing it was the last loose end to tie up. You useless wife, you've ignored all my calls, John barked the moment I entered his room. I didn't answer because you told me not to call you for anything trivial. I figured you were busy, I said with a mocking smile. You took my credit card and insurance card, didn't you? Go to the front desk and pay my bill. I didn't bring your card. Maybe ask your parents for help. They're in jail because of you. The absurdity of his complaints made me laugh. I've already consulted a lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon. Oh, and Ethan and Clara fully support the divorce. John's protests were cut short by the arrival of his mistress, Jessica, confident and unapologetic. She announced, John, I'll pay everything, alimony, child support, the hospital bills, if you divorce her and marry me. John, greedy and desperate, agreed, but before the ink could dry on their twisted arrangement, Jessica revealed her true identity, the granddaughter of a powerful crime boss. John's face turned ashen as men in black suits entered the room. Jessica smiled sweetly. Welcome to the family business, John. A month later, my divorce was finalized. Jessica paid every penny of John's debts. True to her word, John, now bound to Jessica and her dangerous world, had lost everything. As for me, I found peace with my children. Clara recovered fully, and Ethan grew into a strong, supportive young man. My handmade business flourished, and I promised myself that one day, I'd take my children on a well-deserved vacation to celebrate the new life we had built together. I received a frustrating WhatsApp message from my sister. I left your disabled daughter at your home. Panic-stricken, I rushed home, only to find my daughter sobbing uncontrollably, alone, outside the house. This was the breaking point. I couldn't rely on my sister to look after my kids anymore. It was time to show her what family truly meant. My name is Amanda. I'm 43 years old and have a passion for baking. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved experimenting in the kitchen. You'd think I'd be a master by now, right? And, well, not to brag, but I am, mostly. Except for chiffon cakes. My kids love to tease me about those. Mom, your chiffon cake's so dry. Don't worry, we'll help you next time. But when it comes to muffins, I'm a star. My kids' friends often gush, we wish you were our mom. My own kids just give me smug looks, as if to say, yep, that's our mom. These little moments of banter and joy make family life so special, or so I thought. But my sister Kathy's idea of family was vastly different. This story begins a few years ago, during spring vacation, when my family visited my parents' home. We were casually watching TV when Kathy blurted out, lately, there are so many kids with developmental disabilities. I wonder why. Her comment was as out of place as it was jarring. The TV wasn't even discussing disabilities. Everyone, including my mom and husband, turned to her, puzzled. What's with the sudden comment? I asked. A colleague's child was recently diagnosed with a developmental disability, she replied. Apparently, kids who are restless or struggle academically might fall into that category. I don't know much about it, but honestly, I think Sarah might have one too. I was stunned. Sarah is Kathy's daughter, my niece. She'd always seemed like a perfectly normal child to me. Why would you think that? I asked, trying to stay calm. Well, compared to Ken, she's not as smart. Her language skills are underdeveloped. It's like she has a poor memory or something, Kathy insisted. Mom, my husband, and I exchanged uneasy glances. None of us were experts on developmental disabilities, but nothing about Sarah had ever struck us as unusual. Kathy, however, seemed fixated. You just don't get it, Amanda, she said, frustrated. I've been researching developmental disabilities. I know what I'm talking about. At the time, we brushed it off, assuming Kathy would consult a doctor if she was truly concerned, but by the time summer rolled around, her tone had shifted alarmingly. I knew it. Sarah does have a developmental disability, Kathy declared during another family gathering. Her voice carried an unsettling note of triumph, as though she'd just solved a mystery. Did you take her to a doctor? Mom asked, concerned. No, I didn't need to. I have proof, Kathy said smugly. Proof? Mom frowned. Stop talking like she's some kind of criminal. But Kathy pressed on. Sarah starts elementary school next year, and she still can't write the alphabet. She's in kindergarten. That's perfectly normal, I said. Even my daughter, who's already in school, struggles with some letters. Well, that's because your daughter takes after you, Kathy shot back, a smug smile on her face. Her husband Tim chimed in. Maybe your daughter has a developmental disability too. Like mother, like daughter. Anger flared in me, but I held it back. Kids develop at their own pace. There's no need to rush, I said firmly. But Kathy wouldn't hear it. Ken could write the alphabet ages ago, she insisted, comparing Sarah to her older brother, who'd always been exceptionally bright. Ken is 3 years older, I pointed out. It's unfair to compare them. Tim scoffed. Well, from a medical perspective, Sarah clearly has a developmental disability. I stared at him, dumbfounded. Medical perspective? Tim, you're not a doctor. It was clear Kathy and Tim had convinced themselves that Sarah was deficient simply because she wasn't meeting the impossibly high standards they'd set for Ken. It wasn't just frustrating, it was heartbreaking. I always say my siblings graduated from a national university, so I'm smart. Tim's words still echoed in my mind. As ridiculous as they were, he often boasted about his intelligence, using his siblings' accomplishments as if they were his own. For the record, Tim himself graduated from a private university, and not even by choice. He had failed the National University Entrance Exam after ignoring his teacher's advice not to take it. Now, he manages a supermarket, yet insists he's just as brilliant as his siblings. If you're thinking, what is he even talking about? You're not alone. I later learned that Tim was something of an outcast within his own family, which perhaps explained his need to constantly prove himself. But his behavior didn't just stop at self-aggrandizement, it extended into how he and Kathy treated their daughter, Sarah. One day, my husband Mike cautiously suggested, maybe a professional should evaluate Sarah. It could help clear things up. Oh, I've already consulted professionals, Kathy replied quickly. For a moment, silence fell, and a collective question mark seemed to hang in the air. What do you mean by professionals? Mike asked. Well, I've watched health programs on TV, Kathy said matter-of-factly. Their observations matched Sarah's symptoms exactly, so it must be accurate. We all sighed in exasperation. Tim chimed in, backing Kathy up. Yes, those specials are very informative. A colleague of mine saw one, took their child to the doctor, and the diagnosis matched perfectly. It's serious stuff. Mom finally had enough. TV is just TV. Stop using it as your source for medical advice. If you're truly worried, take Sarah to a real doctor. Stay out of our parenting, Kathy snapped, her voice sharp. You're all so ignorant. And with that, she stormed out, dragging Tim and Ken with her, but leaving Sarah behind without a word. Mom sighed deeply. If they're going to act so high and mighty, the least they could do is take proper care of Sarah. Sarah, meanwhile, was playing with my daughter, her usual bright smile plastered on her face, but as I watched her, I noticed something. Every so often, her smile faltered, replaced by a fleeting look of sadness. She must have realized her family had left without her. That brave smile broke my heart. Sarah shouldn't have to carry the burden of our adult failures. I was more certain than ever that she didn't have a developmental disability, but rather, she was the victim of neglect and favoritism. Later that day, Kathy and Tim returned home in high spirits, shopping bags in hand. Mom's face darkened. Do you often leave Sarah behind when you go out shopping? It's just leaving her at home. What's the problem? Kathy shrugged. The problem is, you don't leave Ken behind. Why treat Sarah differently? She doesn't listen, so we're teaching her discipline, Kathy argued. Discipline her if you must, But don't just abandon her without explanation. That's cruel, Mom countered. Tim jumped in defensively. We provide her with proper meals and a good education. Why do you keep criticizing us? That's the bare minimum for parenting, I said sharply. You act like it's some grand favor. This is a family matter. Stay out of it. Amanda, Tim snapped. Sarah is my family too, I shot back. She's my niece. If she's being mistreated, I won't stay silent. My words seemed to hit a nerve. Kathy and Tim avoided my gaze, but their silence spoke volumes. If you suspect Sarah has a developmental disability, leaving her alone is even more irresponsible, Mike added. That's why we're teaching her to stay home alone. Kathy slammed her hand on the table. The argument dragged on for hours, going nowhere. Eventually, Kathy and Tim left early the next morning, cutting their visit short. Their favoritism towards Ken was painfully obvious throughout their stay. At meals, if Ken's favorite shrimp was served, Kathy and Tim would give him extra portions, even taking from Sarah's plate. Sarah, clearly used to this treatment, never protested. Instead, she simply complied, a resigned look on her face. The same pattern repeated itself in other ways. Promises of new toys and games were made to Ken, while Sarah was ignored. All family conversations revolved around Ken's achievements, leaving Sarah to sit quietly on the sidelines. It was heartbreaking to witness. One day, Kathy showed up unannounced with Sarah. Can you take care of her just for today? She asked. Even Sarah seemed confused by the sudden request. She glanced at me and said softly, I could just play in the park instead. Without asking too many questions, we agreed to look after her. When Kathy returned later that evening, she seemed apologetic. Thanks for watching, Sarah, she said. Why the short notice? I asked. Oh, Ken had friends over. Their moms are all doctors and lawyers. You know, it'd be awkward to have Sarah around. I was stunned. You're ashamed of your own daughter? She doesn't fit in with those families. What can I do? Kathy said with a laugh, as if it were a joke. That's no excuse, I said firmly. Whether Sarah has a disability or not, she's your daughter. You should be her biggest supporter, not her biggest critic. Kathy's smile vanished. You've only raised one child. Don't lecture me. With that, she yanked Sarah by the arm and left. These patterns continued. Kathy and Tim would leave Sarah with us, often for long periods, while they took Ken on elaborate outings. They showed up late to pick her up, offered no apologies, and acted like nothing was wrong. Their actions only reinforced my determination to step in. Sarah deserved better than the hand she'd been dealt, and I was going to do everything in my power to ensure she got it. I told you to call before coming over, didn't I? And why didn't you stick to the agreed time? My tone was sharper than usual, even in front of Sarah. I couldn't help it, I was furious. Oh, don't be so picky, Kathy replied nonchalantly. We're here to pick her up, aren't we? That's a given, I snapped. But you can't just drop her off carelessly without proper planning. What's with you lately? Always so irritated, is it menopause? Kathy quipped with a smirk. Tim burst into loud laughter, finding her remark hilarious. I clenched my fists, struggling to keep calm. You two are unbelievable. I keep repeating myself, you need to rethink how you're raising your kids. We are thinking about it, Kathy shot back. That's why Ken is involved in so many activities. Unlike your daughter, who doesn't do anything. We respect our daughter's wishes, because she said she didn't want to participate in those things. Well, we're respecting Ken's wishes, too. Isn't that right, Ken? Kathy turned to him. Ken nodded weakly, his forced smile betraying his true feelings. See? Kathy said triumphantly. Even Ken agrees. I sighed deeply. I'm tired of repeating myself. Fine, just take Sarah and go. Kathy grabbed Sarah by the arm, practically dragging her toward the car. Tim didn't say a word as he started the engine, leaving us standing there, feeling defeated once again. The next day, I was out shopping when I received a text from Kathy. Hey Amanda, you love Sarah, right? Confused, I replied, of course I do. She's my niece. Why are you asking this? Her response left me stunned. Great. Perfect. Consider her your daughter now. I left her at your doorstep. I didn't see anyone home, so you should hurry back. She might be crying alone. I froze in the middle of the store, rereading her message in disbelief. Was this some kind of joke? I called her immediately, but her phone was off. Panic set in. I abandoned my cart and rushed home. When I arrived, my heart sank. Sarah was sitting on the ground in front of the door, crying uncontrollably. Her face was buried in her hands, her small body shaking with sobs. Sarah, I ran to her and pulled her into a hug. She clung to me tightly, tears soaking my shoulder. It's okay, sweetheart, I'm here. It was clear what had happened. Even without asking, Kathy had abandoned her. Calls to Kathy and Tim's phones went unanswered. They had deliberately cut off contact. Through her tears, Sarah whispered, "Auntie, I didn't want to be left like that." I held her close, my anger toward Kathy and Tim boiling over. How could they be so cruel? Right then and there, I made a promise to Sarah, and to myself, I would protect her. She didn't deserve this. Within a week, my husband, mother-in-law, and I went to Kathy's house to confront them. We brought along legal paperwork to formalize Sarah's adoption. Our plan was clear: Sarah would become our daughter. To our surprise, Kathy and Tim agreed without much resistance. "Less burden for us," Kathy said with a dismissive shrug as she signed the papers. Her lack of remorse infuriated me, but I held my tongue. Sarah's well-being was my only priority. 3 months later, Kathy showed up at our house unexpectedly. "We want Sarah back," she said, as if the past few months had never happened. "What are you talking about?" I asked, incredulous. "She's a genius," Kathy exclaimed. "I just found out she won an art contest. Her painting was displayed at the bank. We didn't even know she liked to draw." I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "Of course you didn't know, because you never paid attention to her. That contest? I submitted her artwork myself. Her preschool has been encouraging you to nurture her talents for years, but you ignored them." Kathy's face flushed with embarrassment. "Well, it doesn't matter now, just give her back." I shook my head. "It's not that simple. The adoption is finalized. Sarah is our daughter now, but if she wants to go back to you, I won't stop her. She'll choose me," Kathy said smugly. "Watch." I called Sarah into the room. When she saw Kathy, she hesitated, then clung to me. "Mama," she said softly, a name she'd started using to combine mom and auntie. Kathy reached for her, but Ken stepped in front of his mother protectively. "Ken, what are you doing here? Don't you have lessons?" Kathy demanded. Ken's voice trembled as he replied, "I don't want to go to lessons anymore. I hate them. I hate everything you make me do." Kathy tried to scold him, but I stopped her. "Don't you get it? Your children don't want what you're forcing on them. You've been so focused on appearances and achievements that you've completely ignored their happiness." Kathy stood there, speechless. "Just go home," I said firmly. "You've lost the right to call yourself their mother." In the years that followed, our family dynamic flourished. Sarah, Ken, and our daughter grew close, forming a bond stronger than I could have imagined. Ken moved in with my mother, and Sarah thrived in our home, pursuing her passion for art. Though the road was challenging, it was worth every step. Our two-family household was filled with love, laughter, and the joy of watching the kids grow into their unique talents. Kathy and Tim, meanwhile, drifted into isolation, burdened by the consequences of their selfishness. Our lives weren't perfect, but they were rich with the one thing that mattered most: family. My husband, Brian, whom I supported through thick and thin, was promoted to department head, but then he was taken away by my best friend. He discarded me and the child we had raised together, betraying me as completely as my once trusted friend. It was the lowest point of my life, but thanks to my daughter, who was now an adult starting her career, I managed to recover and move forward. 2 years later, I ran into them unexpectedly in the city. My former best friend sneered as she glanced at the man standing beside me. "A poor-looking old man suits you well," she said smugly. I smiled calmly. "Good to see you. Don't you recognize me?" She looked confused. My ex-husband rushed over. Panicking, I turned to them both and said, "Let me introduce myself properly. My name is Sarah. Until 2 years ago, I was Sarah Ingram." 2 years ago, my husband Matt, the man I married at 24 after a whirlwind romance, asked me for a divorce. It happened just after he was promoted to department head. I had met Matt when I was a new hire, fresh out of college, and he was my senior colleague and mentor. Not long into our relationship, I discovered I was pregnant. Without hesitation, we decided to marry, and I left my job to focus on our child, Emma, who is now 22 and thriving in her career. I had thought I could finally enjoy the second half of my life with Matt. With Emma grown and independent, we'd have more time for each other, but that hope was shattered on the day Matt came home wearing a distant expression. I had prepared a special dinner to celebrate his promotion. When he sat down, he avoided my eyes. "We need to talk," he said gravely. My heart sank, but I tried to stay optimistic. Maybe he wanted to talk about our future now that his career was stable. I had imagined he might thank me for my years of support or even surprise me with plans for a vacation. Instead, his words cut through me like a knife. "I want a divorce. I've fallen in love with someone else. I was stunned. For years, I had supported him, raising Emma largely on my own while he chased his ambitions. I believed him every time he said he was busy with work dinners or business golf. I hadn't seen any signs of his betrayal. My life revolved around our family, and I thought I could rely on his gratitude and loyalty. But instead, Matt left me for my best friend. They both betrayed the trust one had placed in them. Alone and heartbroken, I struggled to rebuild my life. It was Emma who kept me going, her strength and determination inspiring me to move forward. Now, 2 years later, as I stood face to face with them in the city, I felt nothing but calm. The man next to me, a kind and supportive partner, smiled as I introduced myself anew. My ex-husband and former friend looked shaken, but I was unbothered. I had already reclaimed my life. I chose not to complain and supported Matt from behind the scenes. I had witnessed firsthand the challenges he faced after our unexpected pregnancy and my decision to resign from work. One of Matt's superiors once said, "He's a rookie with a slow work pace, but he sure knows how to get a woman pregnant fast." That stung both of us deeply. Matt faced constant criticism, and not all of our colleagues supported our decision to get married. Despite this, he endured the judgment and worked tirelessly to prove himself. His dedication eventually paid off with an early promotion to department head. I wanted to ensure his success reflected well on both of us. I went out of my way to choose thoughtful gifts for his bosses and their families, even when it took extra effort. At company events, I smiled politely, aware I was being judged for leaving work early or stepping away from my career. I didn't mind. I did all of it because I believed in him and wanted to see him succeed. But rather than thank me for my unwavering support, Matt delivered the ultimate betrayal. Until the day he asked for a divorce, I hadn't suspected for a moment that Matt was having an affair. Was I foolish? Had I been blind to the signs? I had to know the truth, no matter how painful. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice trembling. Perhaps it was just an infatuation, and he wasn't serious about ending our family. Matt hesitated before responding. "You know her. She's someone close to you." My mind raced as I tried to piece it together. Was it a former coworker? One of Emma's friends? That idea felt too absurd, too inappropriate. It would make Matt look creepy. Could it be one of the families we knew through Emma's activities, like swimming or ballet? But Matt rarely participated in those events. He didn't even drive Emma to her lessons. "Just tell me," I said, my patience wearing thin. He sighed and shouted, "It's Michelle." Michelle? The name struck me like a blow. Michelle had been my best friend since childhood, the person I trusted most. We'd shared everything, our joys, our struggles, and even our families. When Matt and I got engaged, Michelle had asked me to introduce her to one of Matt's friends. She later married him, and they had a daughter, Jessica, who was 3 years younger than Emma. For years, we bonded over parenting, organizing barbecues, and sharing advice. I had never imagined she would betray me like this. Memories of Michelle flooded my mind. Once, when I was holding on to some of Emma's outgrown clothes, Michelle had joked, "Holding on to these things like this? That's the sign of a toxic parent. It's just stuff. Sarah, you need to let go, or you'll be that kind of mom." Her words had stung, but I took them to heart and tried to be less sentimental. Later, I gave Michelle some of Emma's old clothes and toys as hand-me-downs. However, I struggled to part with one item, Emma's preschool uniform. It held too many memories of her first year of school. I lied to Michelle, saying I might need it for another child, and asked her to return it once Jessica was done with it. Michelle's marriage didn't last, and by the time Jessica was in kindergarten, she and her husband divorced. When she handed me back the preschool uniform, I was relieved to have it again, even though it was worn and patched. But her words stung as she handed it over. "Must be nice to be a housewife." "Huh, Sarah, I'm still dating, but as a single parent, I can't give Jessica a sibling." At the time, Michelle hadn't shared the details of her marital problems. I empathized with her struggles, but I was also dealing with my own disappointments. I had wanted a second child, but Matt's long hours and lack of interest left no room for that discussion. I let go of that dream, feeling grateful that I was better off than Michelle in some ways. But now, hearing Matt utter her name, the betrayal felt unbearable. Michelle, who once accused me of still dating my own husband, had stolen him from me. "The guy you introduced me to left me for another woman, Sarah," she had once said bitterly. I hadn't denied it then, only smiled sympathetically. I never imagined she would turn around and do the same thing to me. Michelle picked a fight with me not long after her divorce. It all started because she'd asked me to introduce her to someone I barely knew, her now ex-husband. When I first met him, Michelle was immediately drawn to his looks and made it her mission to pursue him. I had advised her to take things slow and really get to know him, but she didn't listen. Later, when her marriage fell apart, she blamed me. I was confused but sympathetic, recognizing she needed a friend to lean on during a tough time. I didn't hold it against her. After her divorce, I tried to support Michelle and her daughter, Jessica, however I could. I even registered as Jessica's emergency contact at her daycare. If Jessica got sick and Michelle couldn't leave work, I'd pick her up, take her to the doctor, and look after her until Michelle was free. I adjusted my part-time work schedule to be there for Jessica when she started middle school, as she spent afternoons at my house instead of daycare. It wasn't easy, but I wanted to help. When my own daughter, Emma, graduated from elementary school and moved on to middle school, my life took a turn. A clerk at my part-time job got married and relocated, and my company offered me a full-time position. Matt, my husband, supported the idea of increasing our household income, and Emma was on board too. After years of focusing on family, I was excited to take on this new chapter. However, working full-time meant I couldn't continue looking after Jessica after school. Michelle and I had to adjust. Jessica began coming home to an empty house, but I figured it wasn't my responsibility anymore. Life moved on. Over the next 9 years, Michelle and I saw less of each other. Although we didn't meet as often as we had when our daughters were young, I still considered her my best friend. Then, one day, Matt's unexpected words shattered that illusion. I want a divorce. I'm in love with Michelle. His declaration hit me like a ton of bricks. I tried to laugh it off, thinking it had to be some kind of joke. You're kidding, right? Michelle is my best friend. But Matt's expression was deadly serious. I know she's your best friend, but I've fallen for her. I can't help how I feel. I stared at him, stunned. How could a 49-year-old man with a 22-year-old daughter speak so childishly? It felt like I was trapped in some absurd soap opera. So it's just your crush, right? Michelle would never betray me. Desperate for clarity, I called Michelle. She picked up immediately. Michelle, can you come over? Matt's saying some crazy things. But instead of laughing it off, Michelle chuckled. Oh, I already know. Matt told me he was asking you for a divorce today. You knew? My heart sank. You've been talking to him? Her voice was cheerful, almost gleeful. Yes, Sarah, I'm sorry, but Matt's in love with me now. He wants to divorce you and marry me. The world seemed to spin. This had to be a cruel joke. My husband and my best friend conspiring together? It was too much to believe. Matt left the room muttering something about going out for a smoke, something he hadn't done since I was pregnant. When had he started again? When he returned, he wasn't alone. Michelle walked in beside him, and they both looked resolute. Sarah, I'm really sorry, Matt began, but we've confirmed our feelings for each other. Michelle is the right partner for me now. Despite her words of apology, Michelle's smirk was unmistakable. I couldn't help but snap. Didn't you already have a boyfriend, Michelle? You always did, even after your divorce. And some of them supported you financially. Her expression hardened. Sarah, don't bring that up in front of Matt. Those boyfriends were just temporary. The truth is, I've always loved Matt. She even mustered fake tears, putting on a melodramatic display. To my shock, Matt reached out and stroked her hair tenderly. Sarah, don't blame Michelle, he said softly, as if this betrayal was something I simply needed to accept. It was like Matt wanted to cast himself as some tragic hero in this ridiculous drama. Watching him and Michelle, I could hardly believe these people were real. My heart shattered as tears rolled silently down my cheeks. I whispered, since when? We've been meeting in secret for a long time, Michelle admitted shamelessly, but we only started talking seriously about marriage after Matt's promotion was confirmed. I felt like a fool. I had trusted them both, and now it was clear they had been betraying me behind my back. Michelle must have seen Matt's promotion as an opportunity to improve her own life and latched onto the idea of marriage. Her arrogance was unbearable. So now that you know, hurry up and divorce him already, she said, smirking. Her attitude made my tears feel ridiculous. I forced myself to respond. Fine, I'll divorce him, but I couldn't resist asking, what about Jessica? Does she know? Don't ignore your daughter's feelings. At the mention of Jessica, Matt's face briefly registered guilt. He dropped his gaze. Jessica turned 18 and moved out. She's no longer my responsibility, he muttered. Then, astonishingly, he added, it's probably your fault she turned out so defiant, considering how much time she spent with you. Their callousness was staggering. I hadn't spoken to Jessica in some time, so I hadn't even known she had moved out. When Matt produced the divorce papers, With Michelle's signature already on the guarantor section, I couldn't muster the energy to argue. Seeing that grotesque document, I agreed to the divorce on the spot. Matt packed his things and moved out to live with Michelle. I never thought Michelle would have the audacity to treat my husband like one of my daughter's hand-me-down clothes. Yet here we were. When Emma returned from her business trip the next day, I told her everything. Her reaction was sharper than I expected. "That man isn't my father anymore," she said firmly. "And Michelle? She's the worst person I've ever known." Her words startled me, but I saw how strong Emma had become. I had worried she would be deeply hurt, but she handled the news better than I had imagined. Even so, her anger burned hot. "Have you talked to Jessica?" I asked. "I'm worried she might be struggling." "Mom, stop worrying about other people and start thinking about yourself," Emma said, her eyes brimming with tears. Seeing her so raw and vulnerable, I realized she had suffered more than she let on. I hugged her, something we hadn't done in years. I vowed to be a better parent, someone Emma could truly be proud of. 2 years passed without a word from Matt or Michelle. Emma thrived in her new independence, and we saw no reason to reach out to her father. Michelle had moved far away after marrying Matt, and our paths never crossed until one fateful evening. After attending a play, I ran into them in the city by chance. Our eyes met, and I couldn't avoid them. Michelle's mocking voice cut through the air. "A poor-looking old man suits you," she sneered, glancing disdainfully at the man beside me. I didn't take the bait. I had just enjoyed a lovely evening with my new boyfriend, Jonathan. He and I had been watching the play together. Instead of responding to her insult, I shot her a level look. "Good to see you, Michelle. Don't you recognize him?" Michelle's smug expression faltered, and she stared at Jonathan in disbelief. Matt looked equally stunned. "Wait, you're Jonathan?" Matt stammered. Jonathan had been Matt's senior at the company, mentoring him when he first started. He had once taken the fall for a mistake Matt made, which had cost Jonathan his job. I hadn't known this back then, but we reconnected recently through a mutual acquaintance. That's how we had started dating. Michelle's face twisted as she remembered. I had once introduced Jonathan to her as a potential partner, but she had rejected him, saying he was too old and not stylish enough. Now, Jonathan looked different, his appearance more polished and refined. Michelle's disdain for anything understated had blinded her to his true worth. Jonathan spoke calmly but firmly. "Relax, Michelle. It's not a big company, and my income isn't huge, but starting my own business worked out for the best." Michelle's eyes widened in horror. "What? He's a CEO?" she blurted, her crassness on full display. "If I'd known that, I wouldn't have married Matt. He's so cheap." Her outburst only made me pity her more. Jonathan, ever composed, simply shrugged. "It's not about titles, Michelle. It's about character." Just then, I noticed Emma and Jessica standing nearby. Having overheard the scene, guilt tugged at me. They shouldn't have had to witness this embarrassment, yet their expressions were resolute. "Still relying on men after all these years," Emma said, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "When will you ever learn?" Michelle turned, startled, and suddenly adopted a parental tone. "Jessica, Emma, how have you been?" But their daughters weren't buying it. Jessica, standing tall, spoke with quiet strength. "I loved you once, Mom, but after the divorce, you moved us around and dated random men. It made me uncomfortable and ashamed. I used to wish Miss Sarah was my mom." Her words pierced my heart. I hugged her tightly, feeling a bond stronger than ever before. Jonathan's voice broke the tension. "Come on, let's leave these foolish people behind and go have a nice meal." We walked away, leaving Matt and Michelle to their hollow lives. Later, I learned from an old classmate that they had divorced. Matt had finally reached his breaking point after Michelle repeatedly belittled him. Emma and Jessica grew closer. Like true sisters, Jonathan eventually proposed, and I accepted. Looking back, I realized my first marriage had been a mistake, but it had led me to where I belonged. Together, Jonathan, Emma, Jessica, and I are building a new life, filled with love and laughter. "I can't eat homemade food made by poor people like you. I prefer high-end sushi." Her words cut through the air, halting me in the middle of preparing dinner. "Poor people, you said?" I repeated, trying to make sense of her sharp, mocking tone. Her voice carried a hint of a smile, making her insult sting even more. I placed my hand on the kitchen counter, momentarily at a loss for words. "Someone like you as a mother-in-law is the worst," she continued, her words dripping with disdain. "But I'm trying to bear with it because your son is an elite, and your husband runs a company." Her casual cruelty hung heavy in the room, sucking the warmth from the atmosphere. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Years of hard work and dedication to keep this family together, dismissed with a single sentence. Yet, I held on, trying to believe there was more to her than the arrogance she displayed. Then, my husband, David, who had been silently observing, finally stood up. With just one word, he silenced the room, leaving us all frozen in place. My name is Lisa Scott. I live with my husband, David, and our 2 sons, James and Adam. I've spent most of my life as a stay-at-home mom, committed to raising my children. Perhaps my devotion to family stems from my own childhood, one marked by the absence of stability and love. When I was just 3, my parents divorced. My mother took me in, working tirelessly to provide for us. Despite her efforts, we lived in poverty. Dinner was often the same meal night after night, and exhaustion etched itself into my mother's face. Yet, she never let her struggles overshadow her love for me. She celebrated my smallest victories and always found a way to make me feel cherished. But her health couldn't keep up with the endless sacrifices. When I started elementary school, she fell gravely ill, unable to work. She could no longer support us. The financial strain was too much, and I was sent to live in a children's home. Life at the home was challenging, filled with children from all walks of life. I learned independence, resilience, and the painful value of family. Those experiences shaped me, teaching me to treasure every moment with my loved ones. When I married David, we didn't have much, but we were happy. He started his business around the time I was pregnant with James. It was a slow start, but we made it work, always prioritizing family time. Over the years, his hard work paid off, the business flourished, and we were able to provide a comfortable life for our sons. James was ambitious and studious, earning a place at a prestigious university and later a job at a top company. Adam, our younger son, excelled in sports and earned a soccer scholarship. I still remember James's excitement when he shared his success. "Mom, Dad, I did it. I got in." My husband and I were so proud, knowing that his determination and hard work had paid off. As our sons thrived, I felt like our family had reached a beautiful harmony. That's why, when James introduced Mary to us, I wanted so badly to welcome her with open arms. Mary was tall, elegant, and carried herself with confidence. Her cheerful demeanor and engaging conversation instantly put me at ease. She spoke passionately about her career in interior design, and I found myself genuinely admiring her ambition. For a moment, I thought of her as the daughter I never had. She fit into our family so naturally, until I glimpsed a side of her I hadn't expected. When James stepped away to use the bathroom and David took a call, Mary's demeanor shifted. The warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced by a cold, critical gaze. Concerned, I asked, "Are you okay?" She blinked, her expression tightening. "What do you mean?" "It's just, your expression changed," I said cautiously. "Oh, it's nothing," she replied dismissively. Then, gesturing to the dessert I had served, she said, "Where did you get this cake? It tastes so cheap." I was taken aback. "Excuse me?" She smirked. "I have a favorite bakery. Next time, I'll bring something from there. You won't want to eat anything else after that." Her tone was laced with condescension as she poked at the cake with her fork. Her words lingered, leaving me unsettled. The cheerful, polite Mary from earlier seemed like a distant memory. I was surprised and a bit hurt by Mary's earlier words, but I decided to stay silent. When James returned from the bathroom and David finished his call, Mary's demeanor shifted as if nothing had happened. Her expression brightened, her cheerful tone returning effortlessly. I chose not to bring up the unsettling moment, but a sense of unease lingered. Later that evening, Adam arrived home. "I'm back," he called, sounding tired. "Welcome back, Adam. You're late. Everything okay?" I asked, watching him closely. "Yeah, just a long day," he replied, his tone weary as he walked into the living room. Mary stood up, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "Nice to meet you. I'm Mary. I've heard so much about you from James." Adam offered a polite but tired smile, extending his hand for a handshake. "Nice to meet you too," he said, his voice cordial but distant. We all sat down at the table again. James and Mary carried most of the conversation, while Adam remained quiet, only speaking when directly addressed. "You play soccer in college, right? What position?" Mary asked, trying to engage him. "Forward," Adam replied curtly. "That's so cool. Soccer must require a lot of teamwork." "Yeah, it does." Despite her efforts, Adam's responses stayed brief. Mary didn't seem bothered and moved the conversation back to herself. I was in the volleyball club in college. Team unity is everything, don't you think? Yeah, I guess, Adam said, clearly uninterested. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Suddenly, Adam stood up. Hey, where are you going? James asked, sounding annoyed. I'm tired, I need some sleep, Adam replied, irritation creeping into his voice. That's rude, Mary's here, and you're just leaving? Adam shrugged. I don't think it's rude. Good night. As Adam walked out, Mary's warm expression flickered. She glared at his back and clicked her tongue, a subtle but telling gesture. My stomach tightened. Was there something more beneath her cheerful facade? Mary quickly regained her composure. It's been a long day. I think I'll head home now, she said, her voice light again. After seeing James and Mary off, I turned to David. What do you think of her? She seems cheerful and nice, he said thoughtfully, but Adam's behavior was unusual. He's not usually like that. I noticed too, I said, my voice quieter. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but something feels off. David gave me a reassuring look. Let's give it some time. Everyone feels things differently. That night, the house was quiet. As I sat on the sofa reflecting on the evening, Adam walked in. Mom, can I talk to you? Of course, I said, gesturing for him to sit beside me. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. That girl, Mary, I don't think she and I get along. James likes her a lot, but I just don't get a good feeling about her. Why do you feel that way? I asked gently. It's not anything specific, he admitted, just a feeling. I nodded slowly. I understand. Sometimes, gut feelings matter. He looked relieved. She smiles, but I feel like there's something else behind it. I felt it too, I confessed. Not to speak ill of her, but there's something unsettling about her. I don't want to upset James, but I can't ignore it either. Our conversation lasted a while, with Adam expressing his unease. His concerns mirrored my own, and I felt more justified in my cautious approach. The next morning, tension hung over breakfast. When Mary's name came up, Adam's expression hardened. James, what do you even see in her? Stop it, Adam, James snapped. Why do I have to explain myself to you? Come on, it's weird. Mom feels it too. I don't care what Mom said, James shouted. I like Mary. Their argument escalated until I intervened. Enough, both of you. That's no way to talk to each other. Adam calmed down, though his face remained stormy. James stayed upset, but I tried to ease the tension. Adam, it's important to respect James's choice, but James, we can't dismiss how Adam feels either. Fine, Adam muttered, backing off. As breakfast ended, the mood lightened slightly, but Adam's worried expression stayed with me. Despite the tension, James and Mary eventually got married. For their first holiday as newlyweds, they planned to stay over, and I prepared a feast to celebrate. When they arrived, Mary's eyes lit up at the sight of the spread. Wow, this looks amazing. I've never seen such a feast before. Thank you, I said warmly. I made this to celebrate your marriage. Thank you so much. I feel so blessed, Mary said, smiling sweetly. Her words eased some of my doubts, and we began eating together. However, as we cleaned up after the meal, Mary's tone shifted again. These plates are a bit old, aren't they? She said, her voice laced with condescension. These plates have been with us since we got married. They're full of memories, I explained. Oh, I see, she said with a faint smirk. Or maybe you just can't afford new ones? Her words stung. Mary, before I could respond, she whispered coldly, you should serve sushi next time. I can't eat homemade food made by poor people like you. I froze, her words hitting harder than I expected. This wasn't the Mary James saw. This was someone else entirely. I was stunned by Mary's words and the cold stare she gave me. Poor people? Did you really say that? My voice rose before I could stop it, drawing the attention of James, Adam, and David. It's nothing, Mary said quickly, trying to brush it off. But I couldn't let it go. You called us poor, didn't you? She clicked her tongue, a look of disdain crossing her face. So, the mask slips, Adam said, glaring at her. Why did you even marry James? You're just after his and Dad's money, aren't you? Calm down, Adam, James said, stepping in. Don't be ridiculous. Mom's just imagining things. Imagining? Didn't you hear what she said to Mom? How can you defend her? Adam shot back, the tension between the brothers rising. I said it as a joke. Mary interjected with a dismissive wave. No need to make such a big deal out of it. A joke? I said, my voice steady but firm. Mary, even as a joke, that's not something you should say. Words like that hurt. Mary rolled her eyes. Fine, sorry if you're all so sensitive. Sensitive? Adam was furious now. This isn't about sensitivity, it's about respect. Do you even care about James or this family? Mary sighed dramatically, as though she were tired of the entire exchange. Of course, I care about James. Why else would I marry him? Adam wasn't convinced. Then why say things like that about his family? If you cared, you wouldn't be so disrespectful. I was just being honest, Mary said, her tone sharpening. James told me himself how hard your mom's life was growing up. I'm just stating the obvious. She's strong, sure, but having someone like her as a mother-in-law isn't exactly ideal. Her words cut deep, and I saw the shock on James's face. Mary, what are you saying? He asked, his voice trembling. I'm saying the truth, James. You're an elite, your family isn't exactly on the same level, but I thought I could overlook that because of you, she said, her voice cold and unapologetic. And honestly, she added, glancing at Adam, he's more my type anyway. Adam's chair scraped loudly as he stood, his fists clenched. That's enough. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy. My husband, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up, his voice calm but commanding. Mary, I think it's time you left. What? Why? Mary looked genuinely surprised. I've tolerated a lot for the sake of peace, but insulting my family crosses a line, he said, pulling out his phone. I'm calling your father, he needs to know what's happened here. Wait, what? Mary stammered, but my husband didn't waver. Minutes later, the doorbell rang, and David went to answer it. Mary's parents entered the living room, her mother looking nervous while her father, Larry, appeared calm but firm. What's going on here? Larry asked, his gaze shifting between us and his daughter. Your daughter has crossed a line, my husband said. She insulted my family, and it's clear she has no respect for us. Mary? Larry turned to her, his tone heavy with disappointment. What did you say? I didn't do anything wrong, she protested. Don't lie to me, Mary, he said sternly. Tell me the truth. Mary hesitated but didn't respond. Her mother tried to defend her. Larry, let's not jump to conclusions. Enough, he cut her off. Mary, you've embarrassed this family. If you can't respect James's family, you have no place here. Dad, you can't mean that. Mary's voice cracked as the weight of his words hit her. I do, Larry said firmly. It's time for you to grow up. You'll learn the value of respect and family when you're on your own. Tears streamed down Mary's face, but Larry didn't relent. You're leaving with me today, and until you can apologize and prove you've changed, you're not welcome here. Mary and her parents left soon after, the atmosphere in the house heavy with unresolved tension. James sat quietly, his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he finally said. I should have seen this sooner. It's okay, I said, placing a hand on his shoulder. What matters is that we move forward. In the months that followed, James and Mary finalized their divorce. While it was a painful chapter, it brought our family closer together. James later met Erica, a kind and thoughtful woman who valued family above all else. Their relationship blossomed naturally, and when James introduced her to us, we instantly felt at ease. Years passed, and our family grew with new spouses, grandchildren, and shared memories. We learned that love and respect are the true foundations of family. Watching my grandchildren play in the yard one sunny afternoon, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had faced challenges, but through it all, our bond had only grown stronger. Your presence here ruins the atmosphere of the venue. Could you please leave? He sneered. Though he was technically my brother-in-law's father, his words cut deep. I had traveled a long way to celebrate my sister's wedding, only to find out I was an uninvited guest to the groom's family. What's the matter? Hurry up and leave. Just having someone like you here ruins the wedding, he spat. Understanding I wasn't welcome, I nodded. Understood, I'll take my leave. I stepped outside and called my husband. What's going on? Why are you here? He asked, concern in his voice. I was told to leave, so I did, I answered honestly. There was nothing else to say. What does this mean? He muttered darkly, turning his gaze toward the groom's family. They stared back, unrepentant. My name is Lisa, and I'm 32 years old. I live with my husband, who is 11 years older than me. The only family I have left are him and my younger sister, Summer, who is 10 years younger. Our father left when I was 10, leaving us in a single-parent household. Summer had just been born, and our mother worked tirelessly to raise us. She juggled jobs from morning till night, and I stepped in to take care of my sister. Despite the hardship, I never complained. We managed until I graduated high school, but years of overwork caught up with my mother, and she passed away. With no extended family to rely on, Summer and I were left to fend for ourselves. What's going to happen to us now, sis? Summer asked, her young face full of fear. Don't worry, I'll manage somehow, I reassured her, though I had no plan. I found a job as a clerk at a small company. The pay wasn't great, but they were willing to hire a high school graduate. It was a small workplace, so I quickly found myself handling a variety of tasks. At first, it was simple clerical work, but my responsibilities grew over time. The boss, however, was kind and supportive. Lisa, would you like to earn a qualification? He asked one day. A qualification? Yes, it's a bit specialized, but we need someone qualified, and you're young, it shouldn't be too hard for you to study, he explained. Would this be outside of working hours? Don't worry, we'll cover the exam fees and textbook costs, please, I'm asking as a favor. The boss's earnest demeanor made it hard to refuse. Besides, earning a qualification could open more doors for me in the future. I thought of Summer, her needs would only grow as she advanced through middle and high school. Understood, I agreed. Don't push yourself too hard, sis, Summer would sometimes say, her voice filled with concern. Don't worry about me, when you graduate high school, you can do whatever you want, I told her. As she entered high school, Summer began considering working right after graduation, but I didn't want her to struggle the way I had, so I convinced her to aim for college. There was one problem, my salary made saving for tuition difficult. I began thinking about changing jobs. When I confided in my boss, I expected disappointment, but he was surprisingly understanding. I completely understand, he said. Actually, I know someone starting a new company. They're looking for someone to handle clerical work. A new company? Yes, and don't worry, it's run by someone very capable. Their business is already doing well, and they're looking for talented employees. The boss assured me the new company's work would be similar to what I was already doing. It sounded ideal, though leaving felt bittersweet. I'd been thinking of closing this company soon anyway, my boss admitted. Most of us here are nearing retirement, and it's getting harder to keep up, so don't worry about leaving, you've done more than enough. After 5 years with the company, hearing his kind words brought tears to my eyes. Don't cry, he said gently. If I make a young girl cry, my wife will scold me. It's better when you smile. With his blessing, I joined the new company. Nice to meet you, I'm Mike, my new boss introduced himself. He was 38, with an air of professionalism that was hard to miss. Nice to meet you, I'm Lisa, I replied. We really needed someone with your qualifications. You've been a great help already, Mike said warmly. If you could handle things at your previous company, I'm confident you'll excel here. Thank you very much, I said, feeling both nervous and excited for what lay ahead. I was nervous, but I think I handled it well. Before I knew it, Mike's company had become my new workplace. It was a startup, aggressively expanding, and Mike was at the center of it all. Though it was a new company, it seemed well-backed, with many big projects already on the table. I'm really grateful to have you here, Lisa, Mike said one day. Your office skills are specialized, and it helps that you have such a strong background. I'm glad I invested in your training. His words made me happy, and as time went on, I could see the company growing. Mike appreciated my work, and I no longer worried about my sister's tuition or our daily expenses. You seem so lively these days, my sister commented one morning. Really? Before, you always seemed overwhelmed by work, but now you seem to enjoy it. Maybe it's because of someone, I teased. Mike? She asked, joking. Don't be silly, I laughed. Go get ready for school. 4 years later, I was 27, and my sister was about to graduate high school. She was doing well in school and aiming for her preferred university. Barring any health issues, she was expected to pass. Meanwhile, Mike's company was flourishing, taking on larger projects, and Mike was a brilliant leader, always bringing in new work and building partnerships. The number of employees quickly increased, and before I knew it, I was training new hires. How about a trip sometime? Mike suggested. A trip? But my schedule. I anticipated that. I'll make sure to wrap things up early. Leave it to me. Thank you, but that feels like a luxury. Mike insisted. Let's relax a bit. You've earned it. As part of the founding team, I spent a lot of time with Mike. Naturally, our relationship grew romantic. Despite the 11-year age difference, it didn't matter to me. But there was one thing on my mind: could we wait to get married? One late night, just the two of us in the office, I decided to share my feelings. Mike, it's not that I don't want to marry you. You're a wonderful man, and I do want to marry you, but I have my sister. She's much younger than me, and until she's independent, I can't leave her. Could we wait until she graduates? I feared it was a selfish request. Mike, already in his mid-30s, was likely thinking seriously about marriage. I wasn't sure if it was too much to ask. Of course, I'll wait until she graduates, Mike said, without hesitation, but in return, let's have dinner with your sister. After all, she'll be family. I was touched by his understanding. His assertiveness was part of what made him such a successful entrepreneur. So, the three of us began spending more time together. As Mike's company stabilized and my sister neared the end of her high school years, we all decided to go on a trip together. It was a wonderful experience, one we wished could last forever. But eventually, the trip ended. My sister went off to college, and Mike and I returned to work. Since the university was nearby, my sister still lived with me, but I knew we'd see less of each other. Around that time, she told me she wanted to get a part-time job. Sure, everyone starts with no experience, I said, though I was still a little worried. I'll be fine, she reassured me. I've been learning about business management from Mike. I'm ready. Her optimism surprised me. She was so much more mature than I had expected. She had always been like that, and her positivity had helped me through tough times. Then, one day, she surprised me even more. Sis, guess what? She said, her eyes sparkling. What is it? I'm getting married after college. I was stunned. Married? Sorry, what? She continued nonchalantly. I'm serious about marrying after graduation. Who's the guy? You don't know him. Or maybe you do. Don't mess with me, I said, half in disbelief. In the summer of her junior year, she announced her plans to get married. I was completely shocked, though she often said surprising things. I hadn't expected her to go this far. The word marriage was sensitive for me, especially considering my thoughts about Mike and me. Remember the business seminar? She asked. I clicked with a guy there. He's planning to start his own company, and he's a good guy, so I thought, why not marry him? Marriage isn't something to take lightly, I said, my voice rising. It's a big commitment, a lifetime decision. I almost expressed my bitterness about our parents, but held it back. My sister gave me a direct look. Don't you want to respond to Mike's feelings? She asked. But I promised to look after you until I graduate. You think I can't manage without you? I've got my life planned, and I've met a good guy. You need to think about your own happiness. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was no longer the little girl I had cared for. Unless you get married first, it's awkward for me, she said. I guess so, I replied softly. Mike and I ended up getting married, and everyone at the company celebrated. Even my first boss came to offer his congratulations. But I still had one more task, meeting my sister's fiancé's family. Brian, her fiancé, seemed like a great guy. He was the eldest son of a small business owner. The business is going to my brother, though, Brian explained. Really? I asked, curious. I always wanted to start my own business, he said, and I liked the idea of working with our family business, so we decided to start our own company together. That's how we met, he added, smiling. Pretty cool, right? We've already incorporated, even as students. Student entrepreneurship isn't that uncommon these days. I was an employee myself, so I couldn't fully follow their discussions, but Brian's family seemed like good people, and I felt he was compatible with my sister. I didn't worry about their future. It was Mike who had introduced Summer to Brian, and he had played a key role in connecting them. I was grateful to him. Our first meeting ended on a warm note, but I still had to meet the rest of Brian's family. It was a natural step, now that we were becoming relatives, but the business owners made me nervous. Strangely, they asked me to come alone. Lisa, yes? I believe you're here to discuss your sister's marriage to Brian. That's correct, I replied, trying to remain composed. That's not why we called you. My father-in-law's voice was sharp. We're here to ask you not to get involved. I was taken aback. What do you mean? You never went to college, you lost your parents, and while Summer seems capable, you certainly don't. Don't expect any help from us. I have no intention of relying on you. I shot back. I've worked hard all my life, supported myself, and planned for my future with Mike. Whether I retire later or not is none of your concern. Words are cheap, my father-in-law sneered. There are many unreliable people out there. We'll invite you to the wedding out of courtesy, but afterward, Stay away. The people attending will be far above your station. It would be embarrassing for you to show up. Their laughter echoed with scorn, and I couldn't bear it any longer. When my sister gets married, she'll have a proper family with Brian. Let's hope she doesn't end up like you, they added cruelly. Tears welled in my eyes, but I held my head high as I excused myself. I won't miss my sister's special day, I said firmly, though my voice trembled. As soon as I was outside, I half ran home, tears streaming uncontrollably. No matter how much I washed my face, the pain lingered. Looking at my red, swollen eyes in the mirror, I whispered to myself, I'll never let them see me like this again. The insults didn't just hurt me, they felt like an attack on everyone who had supported me throughout my life. But no matter what, I resolved to attend my sister's wedding. Watching her get married felt like a final act of letting go, a passing of the torch. Time flew by, and soon, her college graduation and wedding day arrived. You'd better come to my wedding, sis, my sister teased. I've planned an amazing day. I wouldn't miss it for the world, I replied with a smile, hiding my unease about seeing Brian's family again. The venue was extravagant, and the guests exuded wealth and prestige, dressed in formal wear. I felt overwhelmed but kept my composure as I showed my invitation to the usher. He guided me to a private room. As soon as the door opened, mocking voices greeted me. So, you actually came. You really don't understand social cues, do you? Standing before me were Brian's father, mother, and younger brother Dustin, all dressed in high-end suits and designer attire. Why are you here? Dustin sneered. Do you not realize how far beneath us you are? Having someone like you here lowers the venue's prestige. You weren't really meant to show up, his father added. Even though we invited you, we expected you to know better. Get the guards to remove her, Dustin said dismissively. The flood of insults continued, cutting deep. I endured them silently until they crossed the line. What if Summer ends up like you? Dustin spat. She won't, I snapped, my voice shaking. Summer is hardworking and smart. Besides, she and Brian are starting their own business together. Ridiculous. Brian will take over our company, not start some side project, his father scoffed. That's not what they said, I countered. They've already incorporated their own company. Their faces twisted in disbelief. Before they could hurl more accusations, the door opened. Sorry I'm late. Mike's voice filled the room. The family's demeanor shifted instantly. Mike, it's been too long. They greeted him warmly, falling over themselves to show respect. Mike ignored their pleasantries. Have you seen my wife? Your wife, they echoed, shocked. Oh, there she is, Mike said, spotting me in the corner. Why are you standing there? They told me to leave, I said softly. Mike's expression darkened. Why would you tell my wife to leave? She's also the bride's sister. The room fell silent, their faces pale. We didn't know, the father stammered. Explain what happened, Mike demanded. I recounted everything truthfully. So, you insulted my wife and tried to humiliate her? Mike's voice was icy. Insulting her is the same as insulting me. Is that how you treat family? We didn't mean to insult her, they stuttered, visibly sweating. Then what did you mean? Mike's piercing gaze made them shrink. After a long pause, he continued, I do business with your company, but we're not family. Brian is my friend, but that doesn't mean I'll tolerate disrespect toward my wife. Effective immediately, I'll be ending our business relationship. Wait, that will ruin us, Brian's father cried. Please reconsider. I won't. Don't worry, though, I'll work with Brian and Summer's new company instead. They've earned my trust. The family looked stunned, realizing they had lost both their son's loyalty and a critical business partner. Mike turned to me. Let's go, he said, leading me out of the room. The wedding proceeded without further drama. Brian and Summer began their new life together, moving into a new home as they focused on growing their business. Meanwhile, the in-laws faced the consequences of their actions, their company struggling without Mike's support. As for us, life brought a new chapter. I gently patted my belly one evening, excitement and nervousness filling me. When Mike returned home, I greeted him with his favorite stew and a big smile. I have news, I said, placing his hand on my stomach. His eyes lit up. Really? That's amazing. He hugged me gently. With a baby on the way, our family was growing, and though our responsibilities would increase, I knew we could handle it. Together, we would build a happy home filled with love and hope for the future.